Hey everyone, welcome to From the Ground Up podcast. So I wanted to thank everyone that participated in the Black Friday to Cyber Monday sale. I really appreciate it. As a lot of people say, uh, spending your money in a small business goes towards, the actual individual who is doing the work. And as a one-man show, just myself, I really appreciate it. And, that honestly helps me pay rent, helps me feed the animals, helps me do all of that stuff, helps me feed myself. So honestly, it really goes a long way, and I really appreciate everyone's support during the sale. And of course, as always, there's still some more substrates available and some more animals available, even some animals produced by the guy who will be on the podcast today. But we will get to that later, because I want to talk about our sponsor, Focus Cubed. So please go check out their website. As you can see, if you're watching the video right now on YouTube, they have some incredible enclosures. They have some really design forward enclosures that are really unlike anything else that is available on the market. I know I just saw in a green tree python group the other night, someone had basically a bunch of cages, but on top of it was a bunch of Focus Cubed enclosures for their green tree. And I believe it was white with gold lettering, gold Focus Cubed logo. And it looked impeccable and looked amazing. So please go check out what they have going on. Really unique enclosures for some great prices. And you're not going to be waiting for months and months for your enclosure like you will at some other guys I won't mention. But yeah, please go check them out and go support them, because much like I said about myself before, it's just Ashley and her husband. So it's just the two of them. So all money that goes to them helps them out, I'm sure, just as much as it does me. So please go support another small business during this holiday season and check out Focus Cubed. And they can be reached at focuscubedhabitats.com. Facebook, Instagram, all that good stuff, of course. So here we are, another episode of From the Ground Up with a guest that I have had on before. You may know him as a gecko breeder. You may know him as a colubrid keeper and breeder and complete enthusiast. You may know him as a Stone Cold Steve Austin superfan. Kris Painschaub, welcome back to the podcast.
What's up, man? How you doing?
I'm doing good. How you been?
Living the dream. Couldn't be happier, man.
So are you getting ready for Brumation down there in Texas?
Yes. So my brumation started the weekend before Thanksgiving. The process to get to brumation, of course, it takes a few weeks, clear them out, last meals, try and keep them slim on water, and I like to kind of get them down to room temperature. And then I stick them in I have a closet that stays pretty cool, and put them in there. I put most of the snakes down. A couple corn snakes, I put another meal into them. Some of the females, put them down for your 3 months, and they're good to go.
Nice. So that closet, you're in Corpus Christi, right? Yeah. I mean, how cool can that possibly get?
So that's a good point. Today it was 81 degrees, though it will get cold tonight, and we have a little cool front coming in, so we will get down into our highs in the 60s for the next couple weeks. Maybe even see a day with a high in the 50s. So that closet, I have all the vents and everything closed off in it, and it's a walk-in closet, so it's well insulated. So what I've done in the past is I had a wine fridge that I blocked off a section of that closet. And with some snakes, I actually just put them in the wine fridge. And I had that wine fridge set to 55 degrees. That worked absolutely great until, the weekend before Thanksgiving. And I plugged in my wine fridge and it blew up. So we had to take alternative routes to cooling. So we added some blankets and stuff for insulation in that closet. We shut off all the vents, and we are opening the window at night into that room and then closing off the room. So it's like a spare bedroom. And so it's inherently it's a spare closet. So even if we had the heater on, there's no heat getting into that room, or that's the plan. And then we're using the natural cool outside. I use Govee temperature and humidity monitors that are Bluetooth. I think I talked about thermometers and such last time. I'm a nerd about that stuff. I want to know temps everywhere. I want to know humidity. And so we're staying in the mid 60s right now. I know that as we move more to the winter, it'll get into the low 60s, which for those animals is fine. My king snakes, I had some great banded king snakes and the eastern black king snakes, which I don't think they're going to make it into this situation. They're probably going to have this year off. They need to be colder. So you want to keep them in that kind of 50 to 55 range. They're going to a good friend's house who has a cool bot system with an AC unit that actually has the entire room cooled, as I was planning on doing this year. It just, last minute, right? Like you plug it in, and then it just stops working, and you're like, all right, well, what's the alternative route we have here? So that's the plan.
Yeah. I mean, it's nice to have a network of people you can call on, or just it's also kind of not being so strict about being the exact temperature that you want. Sometimes you can't always get exactly what you want, but it doesn't seem like you're that concerned about the little higher temps or anything like that.
No, and especially with the animals that I put down here, that's all going to be Pantherophis stuff and Pitiophis stuff. I think more importantly with them is like the feed cycle and the light cycle. And even also, I think water cycles get involved in that. If you look at areas, especially like Corpus Christi, where, if I have some Nueces County animals that I have down in there, we're not getting a lot of rain. In fact, we haven't had rain in over a month. We did get a little bit, I believe. Anyways, very sparse rain. So we don't have a lot of fresh water in our area. We have estuaries and stuff hooked up to Oso Bay. So you've got to assume that these animals aren't finding fresh, clean water, in their water bowl filled up perfectly, scrubbed out, clean every 7 days. So I like to think of my cycle as a temperature is kind of what everybody thinks, but I think they think about temperature the most because it's the hardest parameter to meet. Then I go for light, which is extremely important for day and night cycles to be your day cycle to be shortened, which happens naturally with the window in the room. And then you can even cut that light out completely, which a lot of people do. And then our next thing we're going to look at is food. Obviously, you're not feeding them for 3 months or 2.5, 3 months. Whereas even though an Nueces County animal out in the wild right now could probably still find a decent supply of rodents and stuff moving around. They're all predominantly rodent and bird feeders. And then that lastly, water. And if we, try to maintain all those and keep an eye on the animals, I think the temp may actually, if you've checked off all 4 boxes to some extent, may fall wayside a little bit.
Yeah. I know the classic thought was that, say you leave them susceptible to disease or something like that, if you have their metabolism not at 85 degrees where it's optimal, say, at least for my corn snakes, right? And then, or you don't have them at 55 where their metabolism is completely shut off almost.
Yeah.
In between there, you kind of leave them susceptible because maybe their immune system drops or something like that. Honestly, I've never kept it, I have, but I mean, for the most part, most years I haven't kept it exactly 50 to 55 degrees or anything like that. I've always been okay with the swings and I've never had any issues. I just wanted to kind of clear that up for probably some people are like, what the hell, I've heard this and that. And so.
Yeah. So if a Pitiophis, if a bull snake reaches all the way down to the southern tip of South Padre Island, and they're native to this area. The Kingsville Reds come from here. Nueces County and Claver County. Kingsville is on the border of those 2 counties. If those animals also reach all the way up into Canada, and this is still the same species, we're still conceptualizing this as the exact same animal all the way up. Why am I'm brumating my Kankakee bull snakes from Illinois at the exact same temperature and cycle? There's so much more involved in the lives and the minds of these, or not minds, but the instincts of these animals. These animals have been raised in my collection. They know my habits. They know my maybe schedules or lack thereof of a schedule. So you can't. Corpus Christi doesn't mimic what's going on in like Canada and way up into the north. I'm pretty sure it's like -10 there now, and I'm pretty sure I've been wearing shorts, or all last month. So it's, I think, like I said, I don't think it's that perfect 55 degrees for exactly 120 days or whatever. So sorry, 90 days. And you take them out and then you pull them out exactly on that day, and they have to have this meal, this meal, this meal, this meal. I think you have healthy animals and you're maintaining some level of cognitive brumation with them. I think you're doing good.
Yeah, it's always interesting, right? I mean, I know that there's a lot of different habitats and stuff in play. And I mean, especially when you're talking about colubrids, probably underground, which for the most part is going to stay a pretty constant temperature, maybe of 55. But also, I mean, we're so stuck on what's the hot spot, what's the ambient, all of that stuff. And outside just never seems to be 85 hot spot, 70-degree ambient. I don't know. You know, like we put ourselves in these boxes, but nature does not cooperate that way.
Yeah, it's, you know, we you know, you'll never see a rat snake or a bull snake out at 110 degrees outside. Well, that's BS. I've seen them, right? Cruising across the road in the middle of the day in a neighborhood, right? And it's like, you know, you'll never see a corn snake below 55 degrees or something like that. And that's not true either. It's, you know, nature is so much more complex than we decide to make it in our little boxes. What we're trying to do is just, you know, simulate it somehow, and within what parameters we're comfortable keeping.
Yeah. And I guess you also got to think, like, when you see those animals out at unusual temperatures and stuff like that, like what are the pressures that are making them do that?
Yeah.
So, like, did they just lose their habitat? Are they starving?
Exactly.
Are they sick? Like, what is going on?
Are they looking for shelter? Are they looking for food? You know, and you got to assume that during the winter, that's just not what they're doing. They've got to have some scheduled cycle within their innateness. But yeah, so, you know, it's one of those things. I know people that breed a lot of the species that I'm working with right now without brumating. They just pair them up seasonally, or maybe they do it with food, or, you know, there's a lot of people do corn snakes year round, and don't have problems. So it's kind of the thought on that one.
Yeah, I think once you follow the parameters for your first year or a couple of years, and then you get an idea of kind of what works for you. Maybe for some, it's kind of like, how far can I push this without negative ramifications? But, you know, you only have certain areas of your house. You can live in Corpus Christi, Texas, or you can live in Philly. Like, you know, there's so many different variables, and you kind of got to figure out what works for you and what works for your animals. And as long as it doesn't have any negative effects, then have fun with it.
Yeah, it's you know, and we also need to remember that we're not pressured to breed any of these things, right? Like, we're not trying to be full-time breeders. There are people out there that are doing that, and they really need to probably figure out their parameters very specifically to their collections or their livelihoods, really. You know, for us, for the people that are involved and deeply involved in this hobby, and that, you know, I do want to make some money off of selling animals. It's part of it, but at the same time, like, if my snakes completely don't breed, I'm not out of house and home. So I don't need to. I would rather just maintain a super healthy collection, keep my eyes on them. You know, at the same time, I know that closet's never going to get over like 72 degrees or 70 degrees, really, because we keep our AC at 70 here, because, you know, it's literally 100 degrees outside all year round. So we just always have to have the AC on. So yeah. So there's a lot of that. I was religious about unpairing my gargoyles, lychees, stuff like that. And even when I did other species of New Caledonian geckos, I would always pair them apart. Or should we remove the pair or unpair them? I don't know. In December and January, and put them back together in February. I wanted to simulate everything getting cold. You know, my rooms get colder, especially my reptile room. And this year I didn't do that. I unpaired them in August. I kind of saw the way things were going, you know. My work, my job, my real life job was ramping up quite a bit, and there was a lot of stressors and a lot of pressure coming on from, you know, obviously this lot of national problems, and COVID being one of the major ones of them. I knew I wasn't going to be going to any shows. I knew I wasn't going to be vending any shows. So I just stopped and said, all right, unpair them now. So I unpaired everything, and I actually just repaired everything up when I put my snakes down for brumation. So maybe that might be the cycle I do now while I'm pairing up and keeping an eye on my adult geckos. That is my time that my snakes are sleeping, for the most part. And then now when my snakes come out of brumation and I start getting babies, once those babies hatch, now, hey, that sounds like a perfect time to unpair these geckos. I'm not digging for eggs. I'm not keeping eyes on tails and toes. I'm not having to, make sure that leeches aren't literally ripping each other apart on a daily basis. Yeah. And now I'm modulating my collection to work for me to get those little parts to click and connect. And everybody, we're keeping reptiles in boxes, man. And I know you say it all the time. Yeah, it's you got to simulate it within your own parameters and make your quality of collection keeping first.
Yeah, and I think to your point, I don't think we expect to do 100% pairings every time. As far as when you're doing that method of keeping, it's like maybe our efficiency goes down 90% when maybe a full-time breeder has like all the numbers, everything down, and they're at like 98, 99% because they're really trying to go for it. I think we're a little bit more loosey-goosey with it.
Yeah. And it's like I have not fully invested my heart and soul and livelihood into like this pair has to make it, right? Like this is my $25,000 each morph ball pythons, my piebald wiggle womp Rocky Road snow cone. And if I don't get this 1 out of 64 chance, I mean, I'm gonna have an OnlyFans with feet pictures. You know what I'm saying, man? We gotta do what we gotta do. Pay that rent. So yeah, it's maintaining a collection. Like you said, if it happens, it happens. If it does, it does. It's great. So excited for it to happen. I think it will. I think based off of my prior track record, I think these parameters will move forward and let this happen. And especially like with the gray bands, I know the gray banders need to get colder. I would have literally had to immediately get another wine fridge and slam them in there. But this is what's going to work this season, and we'll see where it goes.
Yeah. And I think as part of me wants that like one just to imagine like what it would be to spend $20,000 on an animal and then have to pair it up and then look for the eggs and be like, most of my business depends on this. Like it seems completely exhilarating, but at the same time, like, nah, I don't want to do it. But I want to know how it feels.
Can I get like a patch for that and put it right here, and I'll just feel like this is what rolling the dice like that. I think it's people like us. We're close enough in generation where we saw the ball python boom get huge, right? And you were just blown away that these big name people could be making this money and just so successful and doing this all. They didn't, these guys didn't get there by taking out a loan and buying $100,000 worth of 2 snakes. You know what I mean? The guys that really made it had these massive collections that really backed them to support that, right? And then that's, is it a gamble? Sometimes, sure, I've taken gambles on animals. I work with a couple species that are looking absolutely perfect, that are extremely expensive and are looking great in my freezer right now. And that's just the way it happens sometimes. Not every tomato was meant to make it to market. I think we've used that term a few times.
Yeah, and it seems like the nicest, best combinations, whatever, those are always the ones that don't eat or that has a kink or something like that. Yeah. It's like, oh, that would just murder me. Like if I actually had to depend on this. And I think, I don't know, now I expect it, but every once in a while I'd be like, but I get over it, but shit, I couldn't imagine actually having, like, I don't see it as like, oh, my $500 bill just crumbled. You know? Like, I don't see it like that. So it sucks from a different emotional standpoint than it would be if like, it's like, oh, that animal died, so I can't pay rent.
Yeah. And Yeah, it's definitely the case. This year I got really lucky. I hit like hit a very low odd percentage animal out of a pairing that I had, and I was really excited to do it. And it's like the best one. It was the first one to eat. Excuse me. Excuse me.
How dare you?
How dare you? It was like the first one to eat. It's the nicest one. It's one of those things, and then it's like my normal that hatched out in one of my clutches that just randomly came out. Which I still love that animal. I still want it to do good. I still want it to see like that's the one that won't eat. It's like seriously, like you're the one. You don't want to survive. You're like het for like 17 things, and you're just like I'm giving up on this. But that happens. Yeah, I feel like I'm one of those people. I'm like you. I invest everything into something, and then it did. It happened with leeches. Thousands and thousands of dollars of leeches, and then they beat the ever living crap out of each other. I got Shrek, my boy, he's still missing toes, chunks out of his neck, and now I'm probably not gonna breed him again. It could happen. I'd have to find the right female. I keep thinking about it, and I'll get a hold of some females, and I'll be like, "Oh, I'm going to pair him back up with Shrek, man. He's that without anthropomorphizing that gecko has kind of become like my buddy almost, right? Like he's like my mascot, right? Like he's the animal. You come over, you're going to hold him. Everybody loves him, and so, anyways, yeah, seeing that happen, and then be like, "Oh, okay, well, I got." 2 eggs this season, and then he waited 3 years to pair them up, and then the next season, all right, I got 6 eggs, and then the next season, all right, here's a new female that was $2,200, and I'm gonna pair them up because I bought an adult instead of buying a baby, and I got 2 eggs, and all right, I'm just gonna so I'm very glad I don't do this as a living because I'd be just stressed out all the time.
Yeah, I don't know how you wouldn't. So I don't know if it's Marita or JD who's watching right now, but Deli Tarantula Girl YouTube channel. They said Bob Clark did a loan against his house to get the capital to start the Burmese craze. So I guess that's the albino that he. I believe at the time he paired up with Tom Crutchfield on that, and
really?
yeah, I mean that is just I don't know. I'm not a very natural gambler. I'm actually very conservative when it comes to that stuff. So that kind of makes me want to itch and go crazy.
Yeah, a little scared. So that snake was like $100,000, right? Or something. Was it more than that?
I don't know. I don't know offhand. So I'm sure it was JD. So JD, if you know the price of that first one,
yeah.
I don't know why $50K sounds right, but it could be $100K for a pair, or no, I think it may have been one visual, and then I don't fucking know.
So we got to assume, hopefully they knew at that point it was already recessive, but maybe they didn't. Maybe they were just
they had no idea anything because this is there's not many morphs. This is before
this is like 1985, right?
There's corn snakes, there's albino corn snakes, but who knows if albinism works the same in pythons as it does in snakes. So I think at this point, this is ground level. We don't even know if something like this would be genetic. Are you okay over there?
Yeah, 1 second.
Yeah. Yeah, so I couldn't imagine taking the chance on that money, also not knowing if it's something that would be genetic. I'm sure they had a good hunch that, this thing is yellow and white. I'm sure it will be I'm sure there's something going on here, but they probably hatched out the first ones and they were all brown, and I'm sure that wasn't exactly exhilarating. And so
sorry about that, guys.
No, you're good. So he said that he believes that Bob took a loan to get the capital to borrow the albino, and Tom still owned it. So,
wow.
So I guess the assumption is that he was like, "Hey, Tom, can I borrow this? Breed it to my females. I'll give it to you back." And he had to borrow that amount of money just to borrow it. So he had to borrow the money to borrow the snake just to spread the seed to his girls. And then I guess then I'm back.
That is a gamble, man. That's great. That's it. If this hobby would be where it's at without that stuff,
I couldn't even it's it's all the things I guess we take for granted in knowing the things in which these people took all the chances to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. It's there has to be some level of those people in the hobby that make it happen and make all of it possible. Maybe not completely possible, but definitely bring it more into the limelight. Without the ball python craze, this hobby would not be where it's at right now.
100%. I mean, any money that was ever in this hobby outside of the pet market, but in the like designer snake breeding hobby, it's attributed to ball pythons. And then all the equipment that we have as breeders is attributed to that. So
I would go as far as saying anybody making, $50 for a duckbill isopod or whatever they're called, that blows my mind. They're very expensive little guys. I don't know if you have those, but that is all because of the ball python craze, right? Like at some point it goes way back, and then somebody was like, oh, we can do naturalistic setups, so we'll use isopods. And then they're like, oh, well, these are cute isopods. And then it, all became part of it's all connected at some point.
Yeah, I love where we're at though in the hobby as far as I think that this is like feasible for a lot of people. I think, we have plenty of people who are like full-time YouTubers just talking about snakes. And I know a lot of people like to shit on pet tubers or something like that. But like, yeah, I mean, how amazing would it be to just talk about snakes on YouTube and make a living at it? And then you have, all these full-time breeders to where, probably 20 years ago, maybe there was a small handful.
Yeah.
Maybe probably under 10 people that were doing it full time.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy.
With modern equipment and with the widespread capability of knowledge, right? Whether it be social media or access of internet, we have brought in breeding animals to a person that just wants to give it a try's hands, right? A young person can learn about Mendelian genetics with corn snakes and be completely confident in what they're doing and have a textbook way of doing this. Though that was possible maybe in the 80s and 90s, now it's easily reachable with, I mean, stuff off of Amazon, right? Like you can just get online and type up a few things and find everything you need and buy everything you need, and it shows up at your door along with the snakes, right? Like, how amazing is that we're able to bring this to just anybody that wants to, and people like you and like just the Herpetoculture Network and the NPR guys, just putting the word of hobby into people's ears that may have never even thought about it, and maybe even just different aspects of it. It's so amazing.
And I think that, I mean, it's obviously only going up from here, but I remember even in a very short period of time, I mean, Reptile Basics was probably one of the only places where I could get like breeding supplies, like a probe, a rack, a hook, all this stuff. But yeah, you can just go on Amazon. Not that that's a good thing in a way, because I'd like to support the hobby doing it.
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, there's plenty of people who I'm sure they still do all right with that. But we've gone from a very niche of a niche into an actual thing. And
I think I'm with you. I think this is only getting bigger. We watched, maybe if we akin this to like electronic gaming, that became like actual gaming sports, to like celebrityhood multimillionaires that are like, for lack of a better term, we would say they're not athletes, but through the training and through their actual focus, that they're every bit of an athlete. Now you have people that are literally celebrities because they talk about snakes on a camera, and it's like, what? Like that's where we're at. And, obviously there's been a big damper on this year for socializing with people, and obviously we need to do everything we can to be safe and continue to have other people be safe. But how many people have reached out and made friends and through internet capabilities and social media and learned more and gotten more into hobbies like this and realized, wow, I can make these friends from across the world and learn about these animals from across the world just from my fingertips, from a multimedia imaging device that you pay monthly for. It's crazy. It's wild.
And I think as much as we like to complain about it, I think honestly, COVID-19 probably helped grow this industry. I know from my other hobbies. So say like, I have plans and I play guitar. Guitar, the market went absolutely wild. Plants, the market went absolutely wild. Snakes, the market went absolutely wild. Because these are things that you're just doing at home, in your house. So people are trying to say like, oh, I'm stuck in my house. How do I make this somewhat more enjoyable? And I think it's growing the snake hobby, although it is detracting from say shows and stuff, which is a big part of the hobby, which also probably brings, quite a few people out of the hobby. So is it a net positive? I'm not 100% sure. Does it seem like it on my end? Yeah, probably. And there's more people watching YouTube. There's just more people getting into a bunch of different things.
There are, the guy at the show that only brings in imports, and they've always got mites, and they stink, and they always have the dog behind the table that shits on itself.
Oh, they do always have the dog.
Oh, dude, and like 6 to 8 kids pick. I don't know. You tell me, was it 8 or was it 6? Was it 3? Was it 3 at one time or 3 and 2 play? I don't know. Hot dog mustard, just all right here. That guy is really upset about not having shows.
Yes.
I'm upset about not having shows because I'm not getting to see people, not getting out to, visit friends. I'm not getting to peruse the tables. But the guy that was there to scam everybody with his, $25 iguanas, he's real pissed right now, But he would never go the route of social media to post that stuff because he knows that he's going to get internet fact checkers, right? Like there's a lot of those. And sometimes they're like gatekeepers, right? It's like if I post something, I know I'm going to get kind of poo-pooed on by the community. But at the same time, if you can break through that wall, right, then it separates you from the crowd. Maybe. So you can beat the internet fact checkers by being knowledgeable yourself. Which you're selling reptiles, you should have a pretty generalized idea of what you're doing. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at on shows. Am I excited to go back to shows, start vending shows again? Yeah, absolutely. But I will do that at the safety of my friends, my family, my daughter, my parents. That's whatever it is. I'm not going to risk anything.
Yeah, and let's be honest, Texas reptile shows pretty much never stop. So you probably could be vending shows if you wanted to.
Oh yeah, Herps is great. Sean and Lori have been keeping it going. They have done a very good job of minimizing crowds, proper table spacing, wearing masks. There is a safe way to do this, and I am just one of those not risk takers. But yeah, I mean, we're not going to get too into like what Texas is like with COVID, but I'd say there's less people here that believe in it than do. So that is what it is, and people will be people, and people have their own opinions, and I'm happy for them to have those. I do everything I can for people to keep their opinions, even if they're wrong. I don't need to go that route. So I'm going to be real safe with it.
It's a very Texas attitude. Freedom. Just do whatever you want. Just I'll stay home. I'll do whatever. Yeah.
Texas is a great state. It really is. I love this place.
I miss it, man. I don't. I used to deny the fact that I did. I was like, oh, I'm so glad I'm gone. It's like, yeah, I like that place. It's all right. It can stick around. It
has an air to it that you remember. You're there, right? You can live in 18 different cities and then kind of have the same atmosphere. That same guy standing on that corner in every city, right? That everyone has that exact same Irish pub. You've been to it 10 times, right? But when you're Texas just shoves itself down your mouth, and you're just like, oh God, I'm in Texas. Here we are. It's you just and I'll always love the state. I really do.
Sometimes it's the revolver on the person's belt when you're in the gas station.
Well, I wasn't going to get into it, but yeah, we wear guns like jewelry. It's what we do.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, and you guys obviously have a really big community and a really, really great community. What do you do as far as shows down there typically? And when do you think you're going to go back to shows? Do you have any plan to do any?
I try to stay booked at all of the Corpus Christi herp shows. So Sean and Lori bring a show to actually what's in Robstown, Texas. It's just outside of Corpus Christi city limits. Because of the ball python, boas of pythons law. So they bring a show down in October and in February. So I vended it last year in February, and I am signed up to vend it in February. But I was signed up and paid for it in October. And I am such a true believer in what they're doing that I will pay for my table even if I'm not there. And what I've done is people that I know that are going to be vending, especially people that are full-time breeders, I'll be like, hey, look, extra table. We were going to vend next to each other anyways. You use my table, and I'm so happy to do that for those people. If I have to pay for a show for the next 5 years, even though I can't vend it, and I can loan that table out to somebody, but it still supports people that are out there fighting the good fight for this hobby, I'm going to do it. This year online sales were crazy. I sold, I think, everything out almost every time I posted something. It was sold. I think I have like a corn snake that didn't sell, but somebody had given me a deposit and then just never paid for it and then isn't responding to that. That always happens. Like the one person that's like, here's $25 for that $50 snake. And you're like, you know what? Just take it. Just take it. We're done here. You can just have it. And they never get back with you. So I think I've got a couple situations like that.
You take deposits still? Come on, man.
So yes and no. That's not what happened in this situation. I'm being a little facetious. Yeah. I've taken deposits. If we want to be like real honest about like payments on animals and like deposits on animals, I prefer not to do it. But with some of the guards that have been hitting that kind of like $1,800 to $1,200 range, some people are like, "Can I make you payments?" Usually, if somebody gives you a chunk of money for something like that up front, they're serious about it. And I preferred somebody to give me a couple payments and then me ship the gecko out to them instead of them just like racking a credit card on PayPal and sending me all the money at once. Don't drive yourself into financial instability and pay interest on like a gecko, right? Like if we got to do a couple.
Yeah, we've all done it. We've all done it. But don't do that.
Yeah, I mean for sure. This all got started somewhere. Hey, but when you pay that credit card off, it feels great.
I'm still waiting.
Oh no. Oh no.
I don't typically take deposits under $300. So I think, yeah. I mean, like in that case, right, at $1,800 gecko, I mean, yeah, that's completely reasonable. Yeah. So I just don't sell anything that's that expensive. Wah, wah.
Yeah. See, it's like there's like a price bracket on geckos. I'm just like specifically just geckos. There's like all the ones that are $50 to $150, and they're actually all like 75, right? Like you'll end up like if you work it out, you'll make $75 for each one of those. So whatever. Then there's like the next bracket that's like the $400 to $600 range. Those can be almost the most difficult to sell sometimes because they're not like the upper echelon and they're not
breeder quality. Yeah.
But those are some of the best breeders because usually to get to that middle ground animal, you have to have the genetics because they're they're polygenic, but they're bringing something from the mother and the father. So if you have one of these animals that kind of falls in that middle ground, it's still going to be an amazing breeder because it's going to bring the genetics from somewhere. It got that good looking somehow, right? So I've produced some of the prettiest geckos I've ever hatched from literally like a doo-doo gecko. I mean, even the most basic of these animals is amazing to a very high end, and then maybe 3 out of 4 of those babies just didn't come out that amazing, and then boom, one comes out. And it's just crazy because these things have to progressively get better somehow, right? That's the only way line breeding happens. You don't take the best looking animal and breed it to the next best looking animal, and then keep back the ugliest one, right? Like there was a best one out of that clutch, or maybe out of that season. With geckos, I always look at it as seasons. So your selective breeding happens somewhere in that line, and maybe you keep like your middle one, and then your best one, and then you take that back, and you eventually you have like a sample size, and these are the best ones. And
I think that's the beauty of breeding your own stuff.
Those are all the best ones.
Oh yeah, that's your keep rack.
Yeah, and then this little guy over here is a keeper. And I got a couple. I only have a few babies left, and some of them are holdback. Some of them just looked weird, right? You're just like, I want to see this guy in a year. Yeah. So stuff like that.
Yeah, I think that is something that's a little bit underestimated. I think a lot of times people think that you need to buy the best looking animal, breed it to the best looking animal, which is nice. That's really nice. Yeah. But like I can breed something in which I've gotten the same thing year after year, but that 1 year I'll hatch out something that is just outrageously nicer than anything else I ever hatched, like just random. And that's the beauty of breeding your own stuff. Eventually you're going to get lucky and you're going to have the nicest looking of a certain thing. Even if I bred two normal snows together, eventually I'm going to get one that looks a little bit different, a little bit better to your, to your standards or stuff like that. And that's you don't always have to have the best thing to the best thing, although it's preferred and you have a much better chance of getting it.
Yes.
But you could definitely, if you go mid-range and stuff like that, and if you're into corn snakes, luckily, you can spend $400 and get the nicest thing. So
yeah. I think with corn snakes, there's two. Well, before I say this, I'll say we're the kind of guys that breed for ourselves first, right? Like we would not be doing this hobby just to make money, right? Because it's not going to happen.
Or if like I had to just sell all my animals, that I don't get to keep anything back or work towards anything.
No, yeah, exactly. You're doing this because you want to see you got het palmettos, not because you wanted to make money on palmettos, which though you do, right? You got het palmettos because you want to produce these beautiful little white confetti snakes, right? And then continue to do that, and then even make hets and stuff. You wanted that in your collection, and that's great talk on corn snakes that people need to understand. If you can buy the visual of the animal that you really want, you can. There's a couple combinations that I really want to produce and I really want to work with. You could buy that animal, or you could buy the soup components to make that delicious caldo, right? And try and cook it yourself, and maybe try and buy the best examples of all the things around it. And so that's kind of the neat thing with corn snakes. One of the reasons I loved corn snakes when I was young, and that's why I love corn snakes now. I always work with corn snakes. I can pick the things I want and mix and match them. And even if I make hets, I have a pairing this year. I have that female blood red pied that I actually sent you pictures of, and she's going to a charcoal tessera male. Now, I'm not completely sure on the hets that either one of these have, but I know that if I take the tessera charcoal and mix it with blood red, potentially pied side, which is just a offset of diffused, and I'm pretty sure this female is also masked because of the patterning on her head. If I mix those in maybe 3 or 4 years, I can start pairing stuff back together, and I believe it's a tessera pewter, and I've seen tessera pewter pied sides that are like right, and so could I go buy that and spend that $400 or $500, maybe $300 or something? Sure, but I could also just do it here, right? And enjoy that process. Be the mad scientist that kind of tries to put all that together.
Yeah, and I like having certain animals that I have a couple fuck it clutches. I feel like every year, where it's like I don't have matching hets for my lava terrazzo. Fuck it, let's put a coral ghost tessera stripe to it. Let's make a 6-head animal, and let's keep a couple back and see what the hell happens. That's what I love about kind of recessives and just the weirdness that comes with corn snakes.
I inherited a little bit of a collection from somebody, and I kind of piecemealed it out. I was just helping somebody move some animals. They had a little bit of a hard time, and there was a male and female like Okatee, Okatee lineage or whatever we want to think of that Okatee kind of coloration as tesseras, pair of them. It was kind of cool because none of these animals were sexed, so it was kind of like, whoa, they really don't know what any of this stuff is. And I was like, wow, this is an adult pair, 4 years old. The female's like pretty good size of tesseras, and I was like, let's pair them up. Let's see let's see what's going on here. Who knows? Who knows? Right?
And there's always something.
There's going to be something in there, probably.
Yeah, most likely.
Keep the best looking male and the best looking female. You pair the male back to mom and the female back to dad. And it's like it might be the first Tessera scaleless palmetto sunshine, cocoa latte. Who knows, right? So, yeah, it's neat to play those games. It's also, I'll take a few steps back and say it's also our responsibility as sellers of these animals, as curators of these collections, to be completely transparent about these things when we sell them, right? I am selling this animal with unknown hets, or I'm selling this animal with this. I'm selling this animal with true known Okatee lineage or Miami lineage. And, so I think that's one of the kind of crafty, for lack of a better word, more hands-on aspects that are now happening in today's market, right? Like, I'm not wholesaling out any of my animals to go off to some random dude's table. And, every single one of these is, female number 2 from clutch number 2 from pairing this male to this female. And these are the hets or unknown hets, like whatever that pairing produces. There'll be some kind of unknown hets. Even if I find out that, let's say they're all het amel, or I'm sorry, they're het amel, and they produce a 25% amel, that doesn't mean they're not het for other things, right? Let's say one was het for anery and one was het for diffuse, right? Though neither one of those traits will show up on any of the animals. So that's the fun of Mendelian genetics and the fact that it's all recessive. I mean, how boring would a bunch of just like codom stuff be, right? We got to put in 6 years to really figure this stuff out.
Yeah. And then you get possible hets, regardless of what you're pairing. You're going to get possible hets. And there's always going to be a little bit of a gamble, a little bit of a surprise in there. And I think that it's actually pretty rare in corn snakes to list hets. Yeah. So I try my best to do so, which is unusual. But I think it doesn't add value to the animal. So I think that's why people need the extra, at least in corn snakes. It does in like ball python, stuff like that. But yeah. But I mean, it's great just to let people know what they can do, because they're going to get another animal or they have a collection of other animals. So then they can get a little bit creative on what they want to match up, because they know that they have matching hets or even possible hets. They're like, let's see if we can prove that.
Yeah. If I was talking to, little 12-year-old me and I was telling myself how sharp looking young man I was and how respectable I was to elders, I would say, hey, little Kris, you should just go buy 10 of the coolest corn snakes you can find. Just cool stuff, man. Yo, that one's yellow. Cool. That one's got a stripe. Deal. And then buy some that just kind of look just odd. Maybe we buy, a dark colored one but figure it out over the 3 years that you have, the 3 to 4 years, you can go 4 years, over the period of those snakes' lives, figure out what they are, figure out what they can produce, hone in your captive keeping on these animals. And man, by the time you hit that 3rd or 4th year, you are so ready to rock and roll. It's not even funny. You're so pumped and prepared. Hey, it might be like me. I had snakes die first time breeding. I've had my San Diego Gophers. Raised them up. Female's 4 years old. Male was 3 years old. Paired them up. Nothing happened. They didn't sniff each other. They were just pissed. So you're reprobing them, making sure they're good, and hey, all right, and put them back into Brumation this year. Let's see what we got. You can have so much fun with a small collection, and it's starting with babies and learning. I mean, you sell a lot of multi-het animals. Awesome. Start with those animals where all 5 hets. The Lava Terrazzo, whatever. Like you're saying, it has all these possibilities. Well, cool. Now this male could go to this, and man, I'd even go to say always buy a male for every female, even if you're planning on pairing a male to 3 or 4 females. Have extra males, have extra ideas. You might not like what you did the year before. Let's see what you got the next year. It's such a fun little micro hobby within a hobby. You can kind of do.
Yeah. It's unique to most of the others. I think geckos are kind of fun in that way, in which most of your breeders are hobbyists who are really just having fun. And I think
Yeah.
the animals, the prices kind of reflect a price point in which most people, especially, you know, younger people, can get into it and have some fun with it. And I feel like corn snakes are kind of the same way, where it's like, yeah, buy a few and have some fun with it. And I think that really keeps a light air in the hobby in comparison to some of these markets where people are, you know, slitting each other's throats and at each other all the time. Yeah, that can happen elsewhere.
Yeah.
But I feel like the mass population of individuals in, say, corn snakes or crested geckos are like light and having fun with it.
Yeah, and that's also looking at the belief or the idea that you want to breed, right? Like so many people, I'd say like 98% of the people that get a reptile never breed, right? Which is great. You don't have to. I have animals that I'll probably never breed. I would have geckos and snakes and stuff around me if I wasn't breeding. It is just another facet to the hobby that I truly enjoy. And you know, we talked a lot about morphs and stuff like that. Really, a lot of my passion lies in wild type and locale specific. You know, Pantherophis, Pituophis, and it's kind of, which is kind of funny. But there's so many little niches within such a subsected hobby that is broad and funnels itself down to, okay, so maybe we have like our generalized keepers, and then that funnels down into our kind of core keepers that maybe have like a curated collection, right? What we might say is, you know, an expansive collection, whether it's multiple species or just multiple of the same species. And then you start funneling those guys down into the breeders, but you can also start drawing these lines back, like you're saying, crested geckos and leopard geckos. And now you have a little Tim, he wants to breed his corn snakes, and that's great. And he produces one clutch a year, and he loves them, and he names every single one of them. And you know, he takes them to the pet store and they sell them for him, or he sells them on Craigslist, and it takes him all year to sell them. Or, you know, that's great. That's great. It's so, what a cool thing we have going on.
But all we do is mostly bitch about it.
Oh, don't get me wrong. all I'm going to do. When we are done here, I mean, I am getting on Facebook and my fingers will be on fire. Just complaining about. I mean, you know, it's special. It's so funny. You know, we see this in so many other things. You know, so many other hobbies. The thing that actually brings us together is probably the thing that will separate us, right? Like these reptiles bring us together, and maybe we have different political views, or we have different thoughts about emissions, or, you know, whatever, or what type of car. You know, Ford sucks and we love Chevy, or whatever. I don't know. You know,
hell yeah, brother.
Hell yeah, brother. And so, but the thing that will eventually divide somebody that was brought together by this hobby will be this hobby, right? Like, what did you say about palmettos? That's my favorite morph. No, man, charcoals are the best. You know, all right, let's go outside and find, you know, that's the thing. You know,
human nature will always divide us, kind of regardless of what happens. So I think I left the dog outside, so I'm gonna go get her. I'm gonna get another beer. I'm going to pee, but I want to set you up on something that you can talk, you know, for a good 2 minutes about. So can you talk a little bit about? Let's see here. Can you talk a little bit about some of your projects coming up, some of the things that you're broodmating now and that you're going to be pairing in the spring as far as snakes go?
Absolutely.
Right on.
So this year we have a few projects going on. We're focusing from the start on a handful of corn snakes. Last year we did a male, female, who had some kind of a red factor going on, paired to an ultramel motley tessera male. We have probably the most exceptional clutch I could have thought of. That clutch ended up being lots of high red animals, some beautiful ultramels, beautiful amels. We're planning on repairing them. We also did an anery het motley, het amel, to the same ultramel motley tessera, and really had a great gamut of neat morphs, so we'll be doing that again. There's a couple of other ghost animals that have been added to the project that are going to be going to a charcoal male to make heads. Tessera ghost het amel to a Tessera charcoal, and then we're doing the charcoal to blood red. So those are the corn snakes. And I probably missed some genetics in there, and I probably missed some pairings in there, but not off the top of my head. Then we're going to go staying in Pantherophis. We have South Texas beauties, some of the most amazing snakes I've ever seen. So those are my Nueces County wild-caught Texas rat snakes, Pantherophis obsoletus linhameri. They're gorgeous. They're yellow, black, and colorful, and red scales. They're mean as absolute hell. They were wild caught on Farm Road 666 when they were actually yearlings. So they're my FM 666.
Oh, that's pretty sweet, actually.
Yeah. They were wild caught on FM 666 the same night, male and female, about a mile apart from each other. That's Nueces County, Texas rats. I call them South Texas beauties because they're just gorgeous. Texas rats, for the most part, are not extremely good looking snakes. These are drop dead gorgeous. So yeah, we're pairing those up. Then we'll jump into Pitiophis.
Dude, I'm sorry, I can't get past that. I mean, like, there's going to be, I mean, right? They're Texas rats. They're evil. They're terribly hard to deal with. You know, they're very defensive. But there's going to be so many people that get a boner just for it being 666.
Yeah,
I love it.
Farm Road 666, right through Bluntzer, Texas, just on the northwest side of Nueces County. Yeah.
So someone buy these so I don't have to.
No. I don't think I plan on selling any of them. I'm going to give them all away. I have a whole list of people. So Joe, you're just on the list now. You're getting a pair. If it happens, I'm going to knock on wood. Like, who knows?
What are they, like 75 shipped?
You're talking about some of the most beautiful animals on the planet. I don't know what a just non-het wild type F1 Texas rat sells for. Literally like $40, right? Like maybe 75 shipped. You're right. Whatever the shipping cost, you're gonna get these mean little snakes. You know, they are a passion project of mine. The male is every bit of 6 foot. They not only are they mad, but they can throw their poop. And Texas rats have a very specific smelling poop. And it is delightful. In fact, if you go to Snakes and Stogies episode, I'm not sure, but one of the ones I was on, I actually got one out and it started biting me. And then the poop got in the bites and there was just blood everywhere. And it was prime time.
Yeah, JD was asking if you can show one. And I don't know if you've had enough beers for that.
No, they're in Brumation. I'm not going to go. I'm not going to. No, I'm only a beer and a half in, so the answer would be no, regardless. I might have a Joe. Can you share? Can I send you a picture?
Do you have a link? You want to just share it in the chat here, or no?
I don't do the technology.
On your Instagram?
Yeah. Let's look at it.
Probably find it's on your Instagram, so I can screen share it.
Oh my God, maybe not. Any of my loyal followers, anybody that's looking out there to sponsor me, you know, Govey, hit me up. Any beer sponsors, you know, out here representing Stone Cold Steve Austin with Broken Skull IPA, hit me up.
Yeah,
money is hell yeah. I don't think I have a picture of these guys on Instagram. I'm gonna go ahead and apologize ahead of time. I'm terrible with the social media. And as much as I love posting pictures and stuff, I don't. I'm a literal human piece of trash. So let me knock out my Pitiophis real quick. Look, I was holding an anaconda.
You can email it to me, by the way, and I can do it. Yeah, we can do it.
So my Pitiophis, I'll start with my San Diego Gophers. So I have a Dyer's albino male that's also striped, who's going to a double het female. Both of those were from Glenn Reptiles, Glenn Brooks line. I did not purchase them directly from him, but a buddy of mine had, and I kind of took them over when they were yearlings or so. So looking really forward. I love San Diego Gophers, Anectons. If anybody out there is looking to get into Pitiophis, they are probably one of the most relaxed that stay in a small package. So if you're a little concerned about space, because some of the Pituophis do get larger, they're probably adult corn snake length, large corn snake length. Let's go 4.5 foot. They're a little girthier though. They're probably, of all of the length to width Pituophis, the kind of tankiest. But they're usually really calm, which most Pituophis become calm. They're usually just smaller. They're a little fussy. And then we have 2 different kinds of bull snakes that went down this year. So that's going to be Nueces County, which is like Kingsville Reds, but I'm not calling them Kingsville Reds because, one, they're not very red. These are F1s, and they're hints of pink and tangerines and stuff. Very beautiful snakes, and they're big. So the adults to mine are about 10 years old, and they're just about 7.5 foot. So my female is a little bit over 6 foot. And she's 3 years old. So
it's a big animal, man.
It's a big snake. I think I got them out on the last podcast. I swear, every month they just get bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's not, I don't hold some kind of weird feeding schedule where I feed them more or I feed them bigger prey items. They eat along the same, they eat the same amount and on the same schedule as my black pine snakes. My black pine snakes are almost the same age. And this is this is my female black pine. So this is just about a 3-year-old.
That thing is jet black, even the belly.
Oh yeah, I got like the blackest one. Right here, check this out. You see right here.
Some chin action.
Yeah, she has a little white spot on her chin.
Yeah.
Yeah, but she's like the blackest one. It has all the iridophores and the shininess. I spent quite a while looking for an animal that was going to look at that shine, man. Yeah, she's great, and she's super chill. But she's just about a 3-year-old animal. They're very slow growing. You find them a lot of times just chilling on kind of the cool side of the enclosure. And I'm sure there's somebody out there that's gotten one of these to breeding size in 2 years or something like that. But this animal, who's about 4 foot or so, decent, would be good size for maybe a corn snake. She is on the same feeding regimen as my bull snakes, and usually eats the same prey item size as my bull snakes. And for some reason, my Nueces County, the Nueces County animals are just monsters. My Kankakee are on about the same feeding schedule. You feed like those at the same time, and they're about 1.5 foot shorter than the Nueces County animals. They just hold the weight, hold the girth a little differently. So it's kind of a neat thing about that locality. So then also down in the Brumation I have right now, my Kankakee bulls. So I have.
Wait, can I just need to get it clear. Like, just put a pair of babies from that pair in the 666 rats when you send them to me, if you don't mind.
Of the which ones? The waste?
Yes.
I can't hear you. I'm sorry. You cut out.
The black pines.
Oh, I don't know.
For free.
Maybe
that can work that way. Laws. I don't know. Are you a cop? Who's listening?
So remember, I had to get my my interstate commerce license, which is a yearly license to be able to ship these. So maybe in the future, because I can't buy a Louisiana pine snake, but I can be gifted a Louisiana pine snake. I cannot buy one.
Yes.
But I can get an interstate commerce license to have one shipped to me, as long as I have proof that it was not purchased. But I mean, come on. And yeah, black pines are really cool.
I think we can figure something out here.
I mean, who knows? We'll
You never know.
They're a ways out. I've heard, there's a lot of speculation on the way these larger colubrids work. I have heard that the black pines, the southern pines, the North Mexican pines, and the Ruthveni are usually a 4-year snake and can even be a 5-year snake. So I think you had to go 4 years on yours.
Yeah, and it has nothing to do with size. I think a lot of people are like, well, mine's as big as yours, mine's bigger than yours, or no man, like, I'm like, go for it, do it. And then they don't pair until 4 years, at least in my experience. Yeah. And then also people who have asked me that, the feedback has been, oh yeah, like that extra year mattered. Like they bred the animals the next year when they
Yeah, I absolutely don't think it's a size thing. I think it's a sexual maturity thing. There's something within these animals as they go, and hopefully that means that these are longer living animals. And I don't Pituophis eat a lot. They have high metabolisms. I'm one of those people that's like, let's feed them like more small meals. But even then, I don't think these animals need to constantly be fed, 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 fed. Oh, it's moving around, it's hungry, stuff like that. I've also become so big in the camp of lower temperatures. I grew a bull snake from a little one of these things to over 6 foot long and this big around, and I mean healthy, thick, girthy female at a hot spot of 80 to 81 degrees, 82 degrees max, with a cool side of 76, 77 on a normal feeding schedule. I mean, I'm not even every 7 days, maybe every 10 days, or trick them up. Don't feed them for 2 weeks, then give them 4 mice, right? Like, it's not. They're not just. They don't crawl out of their burrows on Tuesday with their bowl of water and have a perfectly frozen thawed medium rat there. Feed them some chicks. Feed them some tilapia. I've heard is great. I haven't tried tilapia yet. Feed them 4 or 5 pinks, right? Rat pinks or something. Feed them a large rat. Mix them up. These things, health is in your hands. Would you like to eat, a cheeseburger every Tuesday for the rest of your life? Sure, you could actually probably live off of that. One cheeseburger every Tuesday, as long as you have clean water. You'd probably not be the healthiest, but if it has the caloric intake to fulfill your caloric outtake for the week, I don't know. Also, I am not a doctor, so anybody thinking about this, I do math for a living, so whatever I just said, completely null and void, because I kind of just thought about it and was like, y'all probably need to eat, right?
I think there's 2 things that I want to dissect there, or at least get to the bottom of, is that many small meals make sense as far as the natural behavior of Pituophis, in which they're going to be in burrows. And in particular, what they're going to do is they're going to raid a burrow. They may eat the parent, but they're also going to eat all the babies, or they're going to just eat all the inhabitants no matter what. So I think that it makes a hell of a lot of sense that you're going to eat a bunch of small meals, especially when, say, the habitat that you're in, the largest thing is going to be a pocket gopher, which maybe you're looking at something that's a small rat or a large mouse, and then you're going to eat these little pinkies. It's like, yeah, it makes sense, small meals more often, but also it's the cooler temps is what I want to get to, as far as these animals are spending the majority of their time in a burrow. And we brumate because burrows are at 55 degrees all the time.
Yeah.
Well, maybe in the summer it's a little bit warmer, but how warm is it really? Yeah, they're probably coming out. Maybe they bask and stuff like that, but maybe it makes sense to have them a little bit cooler. I do 85 hotspot. That's always worked. But yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, there's a few different camps of what people think as far as Pituophis. Pituophis is much like Pantherophis, and there's a large gamut of animals.
And range.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So the way I keep my Bogertrophis, which is going to be like my subox, my Rosale, Transpagos rat snakes, and Baja rat snakes, is different than I keep most of my Pantherophis from even close to similar areas. But how I keep my Baja rats is very similar to how I keep my Cape Baja gophers, my Pituophis vertebralis. So those animals are both kind of similar. The thing that makes Rosale a little different, a little more difficult, doesn't luckily happen with the vertebralis. Which is some ingestion issues. They eat very small meals. They're very prone to regurgitation, and once they regurgitate, it's kind of like an emerald tree boa. Once it's happened, if it happens consistently, let's say you have 2 to 3 regurges out of a Baja rat. Sorry, anybody's ever wanted to know anything about Baja rats? Now I've had them for a couple of years.
We're gonna get there. We gotta go. We gotta go deep into those.
Okay, so they're once it happens with their. Nobody talks about these snakes, and you wonder, okay, this is kind of a snake that's not really remarkable looking, but once you actually have it in your hands, it's kind of like an olive python or a lot of the liasis. You're like, whoa, this is great. And you're like, okay, this doesn't seem like a very difficult animal. Let's give it a little bit more ventilation, a hotter hot spot and a colder cool spot, which is kind of a weird thing to kind of think about. But I like to get their cool spot to about 72 to 74. And I like to get their hot spot a lot closer to 85, 86. Tons of ventilation. Like if I could keep them in a mesh cage, I would. Right? I don't know if that
Reptibreeze.
yeah. I give them water once a week, but a shallow water dish, and I hope that it dries out in about 2 days because I want to keep my humidity as low as possible. And my room naturally has higher humidity. So you would think, oh, well, at least they have perfect sheds and stuff like that. No, there's another thing that happens with the Baja Raz. They're really bad shedders. I don't know what it is. Maybe they just have small scales or something. So I always have a humid hide in with those things. And I like to put the humid hide under another hide, which works really well. But I let it dry out after they've shed, and that ends up being like their preferred hide. And I usually try to keep it in the middle. Is that a consistent in the enclosure or nighttime dips? Mike, no, I'm not doing any nighttime dips on them other than natural nighttime dips. So I keeping a Govee in here, I usually see maybe an ambient during the day of like right now it's 75. This is just ambient air temperature. During the day, that'll get up to 76 maybe. At night right now during this time of the year, I might get to like 68, 69. And then during the middle of summer, plus or minus 5 degrees. But yeah, there'll be natural nighttime dips because I keep the vents off in this room. So the only way this room is being cool now, that it's not like this room is like hermetically sealed or something like that. Like I keep the door open, right? So it still has airflow and stuff. But I keep the vents off. So my AC comes on, it doesn't cool this room too much. My heater comes on, it doesn't heat this room too much. But it will naturally stay insulated just because of where it's at. So the way I give the Bajas a bigger temperature gradient is through the ventilation, right? They're not in the same kind of tubs. They're not in the thick tubs. Very, very, very dry substrate. If it gets wet, I've already, you can see a decline in those animals quickly. Now, granted, I've not even gotten close to breeding these animals, and I've gotten exceptionally good at killing them. They have a thing, and I don't know much about it, and I hope that one day I can learn more about it because I only know of 2 people that work with these animals, and I've talked to both of them as much as they'll give me information on. Once these animals start regurgitating, if it happens a couple times, they'll never keep another meal down again. That's it. And it eventually just wears them out. There's nothing you can do about it. On my last, I lost one this year. In fact, let me be completely honest. I've only lost one, right? So it's not like I've gotten good at killing one. It just hurts to kill them. It has to be.
Also, like, let's keep in mind, like, this is a U.S. native. If it was easy to keep, there would be thousands out there, and there would be hundreds of people breeding them. This is a difficult animal to keep, a difficult animal to breed. Just every which way about it is unique and difficult.
I don't think they're native to the United States, though.
Oh, sorry, my bad. I was thinking
they're in the Baja Peninsula. Yeah.
Is that Mexico, or is that Baja California?
They may actually go all the way up into Baja California. I don't really know. So mine
to do research, right?
Yeah, no, my pair is I have a Bea Conception, which is in the Mexican part, the northeastern part of the Mexican peninsula, and then my other pair was Big Sur, which is, I believe, a little bit more south, the southwest region of the Baja Peninsula in Mexico. So yeah, there's stuff going on, and they're you have to be very careful with them. I don't feed them very often. I feed mine like every 2 weeks. Very small meals.
Is that not the right thing to share? God damn it!
Uh-oh.
It wasn't like anything personal or anything.
I love the name of the group chat because I'm in it, and people are going to be like, Joe, what does that mean?
Yeah, it's a sexting group that the majority of my snake friends are in. Makes sense. This is Baja California.
Yeah.
It says well, Baja California is Mexico, but there is Baja rat snakes are technically in California from one specimen that was found dead on the road in Imperial County,
There you
2.4
go.
miles east of Mountain Springs. So
There you go.
are they in California? Probably not. It seems as though, maybe historically, but
Yeah, I'm sure there's plenty of them there. They're probably just hard to find. They're very.
I mean, as you can imagine, one specimen in 1984. That's all they've got.
This was a good year. Yeah, I'm looking at that picture of that Texas rat too because I want to show it to you. Yeah. So there, it's so. Oh, anyway, we like deep dived on this. The reason I was saying is that even though we'll have animals from even similar areas, so my San Diego gophers are going to be native to that similar area, right? And my vertebralis, Pituophis vertebralis, is native to a similar area. You're not every single thing fits in the same niche. Not everything gets kept the same way. Whereas I think you could keep a San Diego gopher the exact same parameters as you keep a corn snake. You can do the same thing. Something that's going to be from right in the same area might not fit that same niche. So that's one of the things we can kind of, I forget exactly how we got there, but yeah, there's so many crazy things that happen with these animals. It doesn't matter how much you feed it. It's going to do its thing. And then that's what I remember we were talking about the Ruth Veni. It's not going to breed till 4 years old. Look, you might breed them at 3 years old. Hell, you might breed them at 2. Right? I'm sure some guy fed one, rat pups every day for a year and it's 7 foot long and you got it. Like I've seen that 10 foot long or whatever, 9 foot long gray rat snake, right? I'm sure that thing could pump out 58 eggs. But yeah, it's there. Our husbandry will never simulate the wild, right? But we can try to mimic it. And maybe we can try to do that through feeding patterns or feeding habits or to some extent husbandry. I've done a decent bit of field herping, and I know for a fact that like the local rat snakes, when I find them out in the wild, are not in plastic tubs, right? So there's a big difference there in the way of what I'm keeping them and the way that they are. So there's a lot more to it, and when people, if it's a 4-year snake, that means it's sexually mature around 4 years. I know a lot of the kind of really interesting, more intricate pythons are like 6, 9, 10 years. There's some really neat animals out there, and it doesn't matter what you do to get them a size. Sure, you can get them a size through feeding response, through your own personal vendetta against that animal's health, but that doesn't mean that that's the correct way to breed it, or it's going to breed.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think Austin probably feels your pain as far as he's been growing up popwin pythons for like 6 years or so. He's like, yeah, I think I'll wait until year 7. I think that
right.
Yeah,
it's also those are like taking all of Python, a retic, a retic, a lychee with all the bullshit that you got to deal with lychees, and then also like a California king snake. Just taking all 3 of those animals,
that's very
putting them all together, and it's like, all right, so let's see what happens. That pairing those animals up or pairing up animals like that, you got to be
you got to be very confident that they're gonna like each other.
Yeah, or be prepared. Have a fallout plan, right? Like be ready to jump in there, and that's. When I paired up lychees, the first time I paired up my lychees, I remember like sitting in the room and like waiting, right? Like they're gonna start barking and they're gonna notice each other, right? Like they're not extremely intelligent animals, but they have some cognitive sense of what's going on in their enclosure. You can you feed them and stuff like. So yeah, it's there's some trepidation there. These are animals that I can grab and just pull apart, and those are like not animals you can grab and pull apart, right? Like it's pretty nerve-wracking. Exactly. The level of intimidation just in the act of pairing them is great, but also the level of appreciation people in this hobby should have for people that are doing stuff like that it should be very great. Those are the people that we're going to owe this to. once he has, that handful of baby poplin pythons, and if that ever happens, and God willing it will, that is where we need to be appreciative too, because it's the people that put in that hard work, that dedication, that time, for so many different species of the people out there that are putting in to breed the Bolins, and the people that are out there trying to figure out I think I sent you an article about the gentleman breeding the flying lizards, and it's like, whoa, these people put in this time to figure out these animals that would never exist in this hobby, and without these few people, they'll never exist again, right? Once the borders are closed, with Baja rat snakes, there are no wild caught ones, right? Like, they don't exist. And so that's kind of one of the reasons I wanted to work with them, because how many people do you read about that breed Baja rat snakes, right? Like, it's not a thing. And so let's change that. Let's find out why. It's like this.
Yeah, and there's always reasons for that, right? There's always kind of smoke where there's fire.
But they can be figured out, and it's just like chondros. Remember, chondros are one of the most beautiful, blatantly outright beautiful animals, and nobody had them figured out. I'm sorry, that's probably not completely true, but very few had them figured out. But now they're kind of, the chondro nerds out there have it perfect, and look at people that are big into that species will literally sit there and say, no, these things are easy to breed. And it's like, whoa, man, 20 years ago, when I was, doing my best to breed day geckos and stuff like that, I remember being like the elusive chondro, right? Nobody can do this. Well, maybe through a little bit better husbandry, maybe through a little bit better time. Let's be a little bit more patient about this. We'll get a little bit more confident with these animals. That's one of the species I want to work with, doing that, and it will require some level of investment and some massive amount of time. But the same thing with green rat snakes, the Stenocolis. There's tricks and boundaries to them as well. Also, they're not really possible to get wild caught specimens of them anymore either. I believe where they're native, they're not legal to collect.
Yeah, especially, that's a very protected area. But I think that, if people are listening and you're thinking that you have to go to West Papua and find a Bolin's python to get a rare project that no one can breed, look at Western green rat snakes, Senecolus triaspis. Look at the Baja rat snakes. These are snakes that, they've been bred, but you're looking at maybe one clutch a year, and it's only because Casey Lazick has focused on the Western green rats this year is why it happened, and he bred shinglebacks. He's bred so many things for time, and he's amazing at it. But those things are still completely up in the air, and they're things that are in this vicinity, in this area. We've established Bajas aren't from the U.S., so I should stop using it. But
yeah, still,
it's not completely foreign.
No, you can even get down into micro habitats of animals. Let's look at the Kentucky Eastern Black Kings, right? These are animals that rarely are seen in the hobby, that are beautiful, that you can't wild collect in Kentucky anymore. And I don't know. Again, let me subjugate what I just said in the fact that I don't think you can. I think that's the rule. And it's like furthering that love of those animals is big, and you did a great job of that. I forget the gentleman's name from MK Colubrids that did it before you. With those animals.
He's actually in the chat right now.
Oh, Mike, sorry, Mike, I didn't know your last name. I'm so sorry about that. But it's people like you guys that have furthered that. The Louisiana pine snakes right now, Texas indigos have been removed from the. Actually, I believe when we recorded the last podcast was the day it happened, March 29th this year. Texas indigos and Coleonyx reticulatus were removed from the protected list in Texas. You can now collect them in the wild, and you can actually breed them, and you can ship them out. You cannot sell them. It is by letter of law against the law to sell them, and that's what they want. They said you can't collect and sell these animals, but you can collect them and breed them. You can ship them out and get people working with them. So it's animals like the Coleonyx reticulatus that's just not even known in this hobby. That's here. That who knows how it's you have a species of Coleonyx that shares a native habitat with another species of Coleonyx. So you have the Coleonyx brevis, which is the Texas banded gecko. You have the Coleonyx reticulatus, which is the reticulated gecko. I was about to say the banded gecko again. Sorry, the reticulated gecko. And that's it. That third picture over on the top is just one of the coolest looking animals. And these guys fall in the Eublepharid. All Coleonyx fall in the Eublepharid family. So they have eyelids. They're similar to a leopard gecko. These are North American leopard geckos. And
look like it for sure.
Yeah, and so the reticulatus are pretty big. 1 second, Joe. Oh, look, come here. Yeah, you want to say goodnight? Look, this is Joe. Daddy's talking to somebody. Say goodnight.
Hi, good night.
We're talking about geckos and snakes. Okay. You like geckos and snakes? You got a bunch of babies.
Do you have a favorite snake or gecko?
Oh, he asked, do you have a favorite snake or a gecko? Who's your favorite snake?
Max.
You like Mac? Mac is my ultramel, motley, tessera male. That
Fire.
and fire. That's the red that reverse Okati female. And that whole clutch of babies, she like named all of them. It was great. She gets to name all the snakes. You say good night.
Good night.
Say bye.
Why?
Bye.
Why has a face?
Give me a kiss. Yeah, he's a big boy. Go.
Kris Painschaub, proven breeder, everyone. Proven breeder. Round of applause.
Yeah, she'll be ready to sell. She's eating good. She's putting a lot of size on her. She's ready to get out of here in about 14 years. So, look.
Is there a waiting list?
Oh, God. No. Oh, my God. Anyways, that's my little I'm going to take a little break and say I'm so lucky to have this little girl. That's just the love of my life. And she loves the snakes and the geckos and stuff. I don't know. I didn't try to push it on her or tell her that she needed to be in here with me and stuff, but she names them and she loves them and she holds the snakes and the geckos. And it works. Very lucky.
Yeah, I think that's the cool thing about like having this kind of a hobby, right? Is that you can kind of pass it on. And it's something that's not too unreasonable as far as like, yeah, I mean, like every kid, at 3 years old, if you know your animals and stuff like that, you can hand them an animal and they're gonna have a lot of fun with it, and you're gonna have a lot of fun with it. Yeah,
it's like that. There's that corn snake in your collection that's gonna like make or break somebody's mind on something like this, right? And you know that like you see it in their eyes, and you pass it into their hands, and there's this connection. It's like one of these Disney movies where it's like ooh, boom. And like it happens, and you're just like, there it was. That's like, we're gonna get back on those Coleonyx reticulatus. We're not getting off Eublepharids that easy, Joe. You're not gonna skirt by me. But there's this connection I have. I love finding people that are interested in animals and like get past the sales part, right? Like somebody is like, oh man, I really want to work with, want a Pituophis or really, and I'm like, oh man, well great. Hopefully I have a clutch of bull snakes. I'd love to just give you one, right? Like I'd love to find a home for this animal and get to track where it goes. I've had people reach out or people tell me, oh, I've always wanted a gargoyle, and I'm like, all right, well here, look, I have a perfect one for you, and this, I'm just gonna send it to you. Let's do this. Let's get you pumped up about this hobby, and it's like black pine snakes. I think from the first time we've ever talked about anything you talked to me about the black pine snakes, I can't wait if I produce them, to send some to you, right? Just a little care package of these things. And just because I know that your passion is there just like my passion, right? Like we both have that same drive that we're so excited for the next thing. And maybe it's growing our collections. Sometimes it's also thinning out our collections. I think people look at that too negatively, like, oh, why is Joe selling some animals? And it's like, well, I'm sure you have grow outs that are getting ready. You also have a big move that's getting ready to happen. You have, they're not all snuzzy lumpkins, and you don't boop them all on their snoots every night. They're all.
That's
they're
what
all.
You think. I actually boop every one of them on their snoots before I go to sleep.
Boop, 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 boop. There's to some of us, the passion in this is the science experiment, right? Like the derivative factors that we're trying to keep these animals, the breeding the different morphs and looking at the genetics. Did somebody say we look the same? Oh goodness.
Carly just said two of my favorite bearded men.
We're pretty much brothers at this point.
Brother's got a.
Oh yeah, brother. So there's a genetic little scientist experiment, kind of mixing and matching things in the genetics. There's the trying to find wild populations of stuff. I work with a lot of F1 or wild caught stuff, and I do have wild caught stuff, and I understand the things that are indicative to having wild caught animals. I understand the responsibility when I first off bring them into my collection, even post quarantine. There are things that you can miss, and also the ramifications of taking something out of the wild. There is a very, very low feeling if you lose an animal that's wild caught, because maybe you've taken something out of the wild that would have made it and been fine, and that does happen. I hope to think that with that, I'm paying it forward in the hobby, like with my South Texas beauties. You know what I mean? I can't wait for other people to have animals that hate them as much as these animals hate me. It's going to be great.
It is great that we're able to connect with enough people to find the person who's going to be okay with that, because we wouldn't be able to cast a wide enough net if we just had to go to our local reptile show. It would take a lot longer. You'd have to be like, yeah, it bites, but I mean, people are like not okay with that at all.
No, and they're not. If there was ever an animal that was not going to be good in a display enclosure, it's them, right? Like you walk, they see you, they're striking at you. It doesn't matter. Mouths open, they're doing the thing. They got the little tongue coming out, their tails rattling, and I'm going to keep talking about these, and I love them. There's something special. I'm going to find this picture real quick. I sent Phil a picture of it. I know I did. Phil, get on the podcast right now. Do it.
Real quick. JD and Mike want to know what you do for a living.
So I am by trade an engineer. I have degrees in math, physics, and engineering. And now at this point in my career, I am a project manager for a company I've been doing engineering for about 15 years. So I moved into a project management position where I kind of handle a team, kind of based off of some level of sales and analytics. And we work in the petrochemical field. So we cater to refineries, and we do like pressure vessel stuff and build pressure vessels and design pressure vessels. And we also do just kind of hodgepodge, chutes and ladders, if you would. We have some CNC equipment that's really neat. It's a really nice shop that I work for. It's about 295,000 square foot. So been doing it for next year. It'll be 16 years.
Texas oil, far out.
we deal with refineries. So we take the oil, we deal with the guys that take oil and turn it into plastics to make solar panels. So pretty much clean energy right here, first and foremost.
Yeah, we want to clear up. It's not the kind that's killing the environment.
We don't deal too much with it's not true. Yeah, we do. Sorry, I'm really. We don't deal too much with like oil field stuff, and we don't deal with any like fracking stuff. But we are also we do custom fabrication, right? So you would come to me with a problem and say, we've made beautiful signs for businesses that light up and have LEDs and stuff in it. And I've also built like those 200-foot tall, 20-foot towers that spew out that black smoke. So yeah, it is what it is. I did originally go to school. I was going to be a veterinarian. I did school for that, biology, which was the pre-major, for a few years, and realized that not only am I not good at writing, I'm not exceptionally good at reading. And there's things in there that I'm not good at, whereas I'm exceptionally good at planning and math. So that like the numbers made sense to me, and all of these words are difficult.
Isn't that what's fucked up? Is that like you can't be? No one's good at everything.
Yeah,
it's like you either can't read and write, but you can do math, which is like the people who can read and write like cannot do it all.
Yeah. It makes me mad when I'm back in the day when I would go through like linear algebra or talking about calculus or something. People would be like, "Man, is that really hard?" And I'm like, "No. How'd you write that paper though? That's really cool." Like, I need like if there was like talk to talk to text back in like, the early 2000s when I was in college, how cool would that have been, right? Instead of me like trying to type and, but
I made it.
I made it. I hope, there's some sense of the fact that, maybe this hobby in 20 years, maybe when I'm 55 or maybe when I'm 60, I was very, very lucky and fortunate to be, I don't want this to sound like douchey. I was very lucky to get to where I was at a young age. And I was able to do that because of my comprehensiveness in mathematics, right? Like this made sense to me and I did good and it was a field that paid very well. So I was able to build a house very, very young. And I've actually in the second house that I've custom built. And it's very special to be able to do that at a young age. So maybe in 15, 20 years, I can retire at a young age and then use something like this and try to pay it back, right? Like do more, I was in Scouts. I was in Scouts as well as an Eagle Scout. I've done a lot of volunteer work with the local state aquarium, Texas State Aquarium, which is down here in Corpus, which is beautiful. I want to pay back maybe the negative aspects of what, maybe not necessarily my job. My job isn't actually hurting the environment, but maybe the people who I'm catering
who are
to.
Facilitated, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever like said this out loud. It's weird. Like think about it. Yeah, maybe in the future I can. My boss can listen to this, and that's it, guys.
I think that like even though you say math, I think everyone has a skill like that you can kind of figure out how to make that work for you. So math is obviously a very easily marketable skill. Getting a college degree, all that stuff, very marketable and very easy to go. But maybe you are really, really good at reading and breeding your animals. And then I think that, there's a spot for you. There's a spot for you to make that work, or there's zoos out there that will take you, or there's plenty of things. You can have any type of witch skill. I don't even know what the hell my marketable skill is yet, and I'm still alive.
but you work in your marketable skill is your marketing, your capability to take something and bring it to the light of others' eyes. This is apparent in your podcast, your YouTube videos, your success in your website, and then I believe what you do in real life. Working with websites and maybe our hobbies, maybe the fact that I keep little like notebooks and notebooks and notebooks of notes on all this like super nerdy stuff that I literally don't pages and pages and pages of this stuff is a derivative of my, we all have these inherent things and that they drive us to different aspects of this hobby. I do this differently than you do this, and you do this different than the next big guy. And we all do this different than the next, the biggest guy. I don't know who that is.
I wish I was more of you. I think that's the issue. I'm very intuitive when I breed my stuff, and luckily, like I think I have to stay small because I am intuitive. As far as I like to look at body structure, I like to look at behavior, I like to look at when I pair my animals together. I like to watch every pairing and see what's going on. So I think that the way that I work with animals is not scalable at all. It's like completely just based on my intuition and kind of my feelings at the time and all of that stuff and just general observation. For you, there's data, which is great. And I like doing that on like in my day job. I need to look at my web sales. I need to see how are we turning off customers and all that stuff. And there's data, but I don't like recording it. Recording it is like impossible for me. Like I just do the work and I create a mess and I'll clean it up later, basically.
Yeah, it's definitely two different aspects of kind of the same thing, but looking at it differently. Because I wish I could be more like in tune with like habits and stuff of things, whereas I'm definitely more ice like calculated on a lot of it. At least with this, right? I don't always have an easy like, oh man, why is the snake down 2 grams from where it was? Like, oh, but you're like, oh man, it looks great. It's perfect body structure. And for me, sometimes analyzing the numbers. So I'm getting away from it, right? Like I've been trying my hardest to get away from it. I don't have set dates for anything, and so that's kind of trying to distance my mindlyhood from kind of what I do professionally, or maybe what I just do instinctively. And then taking that into more like like I did my geckos differently, and then I realized I can kind of use that as a morph to my keeping that might actually be beneficial to me because now I'm not doing it on that same schedule. I did send you the email of that rat snake.
Yeah.
I hope you got it, dude. It's so rad.
So do you think that keeping less data has made it more fun for you, or do you think that the way that you work is keeping the data is actually part of the fun?
The data that I've stopped keeping is like weights on animals. I was really particular about weights and patterns on animals, so I've stopped doing that. Weights on animals. I'm sorry, I sound like the biggest email ever. Look how pretty that snake is,
dude. It's yellow and black, and it's a rat snake.
Right.
It also has reds in it. You can, and there's almost that's kind of bluish,
right?
Yeah, not bad, man. Black head, fully black head too.
I know, right? It has a little mahogany tinge to it, but yeah, and that is a 6 foot snake. Every bit of a 6 foot snake. And look
and
at
this is the 666.
Yeah, it's a FM 666.
Oh yeah, this thing's sold immediately. All these babies.
Oh, yeah. You know, everybody that sees them loves them in pictures, and then everybody that actually is around them is like, why would you have that animal? And I'm like, look at it. Anyways, but yeah. So you're the keeping aspect by relaxing on it, it has become more hobby-esque, right? Like it feels more. My other kind of two passions. I raced for many years, even semi-professionally for a while, and in cars and different kinds of racing, and that is full-on calculation, right? Like there's an amount of brake pressure that you have to put on when you're going into this corner at a specific RPM. Mike, you got it. You got it. We're going to start with babies. Mike's going to keep a couple babies. I'm going to have a couple babies. Joe's going to have babies. We're all going to try and tame them. We're going to have little tame tokens, just like, just the same way that you we got this. We got this. Mine, they were a little like closer to yearlings when we found them. So, we're going to do what we can do. But yeah, we'll tame them. So with the racing hobby, it was a very calculated thing. So that was like one aspect of my other very, very passionate hobby is painting. I love painting. And I paint a lot. That's not a calculated thing. In fact, it's the exact opposite.
I was about to say, how opposite is that of racing?
Right?
They're more opposite.
There really isn't. And so there's two different reliefs there. Now, as I've grown, as I've become older, especially having a child and maybe become a little bit more involved in my career, though not as much time to go racing because it takes, a lot of time and a lot of money. And then, the painting is still a thing, and now it's something I get to do with my daughter a little bit. But the reptile keeping has flourished over the last 6 to 8 years, right? And just become such a mix of both worlds, right? Like you can spend your time calculating things and planning things out, but Mother Nature will take a absolute full swing to your jubblies and say, no, that's not how that's going to happen. The second you start thinking you got it figured out, you're gonna be real wrong. Yo, Justin, I got you. Whatever, we're.
And I think that you get kind of that release, those kind of endorphins when, say, and it's a negative thing, but when one leashy is tearing up another, you're like, oh, there is that second, or that Texas rat snake is hissing, musking, and biting at your face. There's a little bit of that extreme nature to it as well.
It's all there, and then there's the love and compassion of the animals that you that you just enjoy having. There's the painting aspect, mixing the different morphs, polygenic geckos. There's art to the craft. There's also setting up a terrarium. I try to keep all of even my baby geckos and obviously all my adult geckos and stuff like that in relatively naturalistic environments. And now I've started been doing bioactive tubs for some of my rat snake species. In fact, when the Lindhemeri come out of Brumation, they're going into fully bioactive tubs. So those big Texas rats. Though I'm not keeping them in display cages, and I would love to. They're going to be in large racks that are completely bioactive. So there's there's a lot. There's that is the there's a craft aspect to it, as well as there is the calculated. Well, we need to do this, and we need to get this many feedings, and then we need to make sure we're doing this. And so yeah, it's kind of it's a great passion. Hey, just want to shout out to 903 Brewery. If you guys want to sponsor me, hit me up. Y'all make pickle beer. We love this down here in Texas. You are from Texas, so hit me up. That is South Texas Gecko Daddy _6969 at yahoo.com. Get that sponsorship going. A little tip of the hat. Hell yeah. Yeah. So yeah, man.
I thought that Nathan had a great question, and his question was, what native snake to the U.S. isn't very established in the hobby, but you want to see more popularized?
I think that there is some more work to be done with the glossy snakes. I think glossy snakes are really neat. They're very similar to a rat snake. They're a little bit more frantic, but are really pretty interesting animals. There's so many beautiful king snakes in this country. I'm like looking around my room, just being like, Everglades rats, Pantherophis obsoletus rosale, and if you call them literally anything else, we're fighting. The multistrata, or down here we have Triangulum annulata, the Tamaulipan milk snakes down here in Corpus. In fact, there's a road in McMullen County, which is one county over to the west, that is known as Milk Snake Road. There's some beautiful species of milk snakes. Now, we have to understand that a lot of these animals are probably not very good feeders, right? Yeah. Like they kind of they kind of suck at that. I'm gonna grab. I gotta start grabbing snakes. There's some, there's a lot of wild type morph affinis, which is gopher snakes, specifically Sonoran gopher snakes, and these are Texas natives. And they get overlooked a lot, and they're small. So Sonoran gopher snakes, they can get massive, right? Like your carpet python can be 8 foot long or 10 foot long or whatever, and that's not what they're supposed to be. Usually in the wild, when you find an adult gopher snake, Sonoran gopher snake, they're about 4.5 foot long. They have been found much larger than that. When Jason Nelson was on your podcast, he was talking about the same Sonoran gophers and see how great they are. There's something really neat about them. But I've got some wild caught ones from Brewster County. I'm gonna grab the female. It's really pretty. She's pretty.
Yeah, for me, there's quite a few, and I think that there's a difference between what I like and what also I respect people for working with. So I know in particular there's Stu Tennyson, who's actually in Texas too, but he's working with these coastal plains milk snakes that for some are considered an intergrade, and what he's doing is they don't actually feed off the rip. He needs to actually take he somehow uses like a toothpick and dental floss to assist feed these like tiny little milk snakes that start off too small to eat anything. And I think just the hard work that goes into something like that. So what are we seeing here, Kris?
So this is a wild caught Brewster County Sonoran gopher snake. No morphs or anything on her. She was really small when we found her. She has these cool mahogany colors all down her back, and it's like she's chilling out, right? Like when she was first found, she was a hatchling from this year, and like how cool, right? And like these animals can be just as calm and as chill as a corn snake. They don't get much bigger than a corn snake. They're probably more bulletproof than a corn snake because they come from an area of the state that is literally freezing for 2 or 3 months. West Texas, the desert, it's cold and it's hot and it's cold and it's hot. So they can survive it. They have really neat kind of almost transparent belly patterns on them. So yeah, this is just like kind of one of the things. I wish stuff like this was a little bit more popular. And there are some neat morphs. I mean, I can show you. I got patternless super forks, and I have hypo standard forks. Affinis,
and that's something that everyone can keep, everyone can breed, everyone can feed, all of that stuff.
They're very easy feeders. They usually eat frozen thawed off the rip. They're decent sized babies, a little bit bigger than a corn snake, and adult size they're a little bit bigger than a corn snake. So fed at a regular interval, Just one of the. I wish these were more popular. I'm gonna put this one up real quick.
Yeah. So definitely another one that I think is super awesome. And I see quite a few people keeping, but I think it's just a little bit difficult. A lot of people don't have the patience for is rubber boas. Rubber boas, I feel like, are just such a unique animal. They feel like rubber. Yeah, they may look like a worm or something like that. And yeah, their tail looks like their head. But I mean, they're badass. They're little. It's cool snake.
Yeah, rubber bows or something else, and also that has got to be one of the most like bulletproof animals under the sun, right? Like they find them out in like the snow, and it's what a weird.
And at the same time, like, they're in Idaho in the snow, but at the same time, we don't have them completely figured out in captivity. No. It's like silly, right? It's like, it's interesting. It's for something for people to work on. For sure.
There's definitely, I kind of go towards something that's really easy talking about this, but there's a lot of really, really interesting species in North America that like haven't been figured out. And it's kind of like, it's the second you figure out how to, the first time you solve a Rubik's Cube, it's very difficult. The second you're a little bit easier at it, but maybe after it's been done 20 or 30 times, it becomes easy. This is now something that's just, it comes natural, right? And so maybe that's what it is with some of these species. Maybe that first time somebody's figuring out that Rubik's Cube, it's just tough to do. But once we have it wrote down and transparent to others, maybe through social media or whatever, it's one of those. Now it's easy.
Yeah, and I think that obviously something like the Baja, it's like maybe, or Senicolus triaspis, it's the western green rat snake. It's like, maybe we need to take a much different approach to how to keeping these, which I think is tricky. It's like, maybe they aren't so tricky. It's just not how we approach snake keeping at this current moment. So maybe it's not, maybe there's a different variable in which isn't a variable for other snakes, maybe airflow, maybe humidity, which is something that obviously you're messing with right now, but there's something. It definitely doesn't, they definitely don't all just die. We're doing something wrong.
And it's maybe we keep everything like, let's just akin it to keeping everything like a corn snake, right? Well, maybe corn snakes are just really good at living to the parameters that we're providing them, right? Maybe that's not the actual best way, to keep them. I'd like to start keeping things in different kinds of enclosures. I'd like to start seeing things interact more in like a cohab universe. I've kept some of my rat snakes cohab, which is kind of neat. I'm brumating all of my stuff. I'm not brumating. I'm brumating corn snakes like I've bred corn snakes, like I've brumated corn snakes. Doing it the same way I've always done it because it's like that works. I decided this year that I'm going to brumate my Pituophis and my big rats cohab. Not by need. I didn't need to do that, but I've heard a lot of old school people saying, "Hey, yeah, I have a lot of luck when you actually brumate them together." And then you pull them out, you separate them, start feeding them. You get that first shed, you start pairing them back up together. So yeah, there's a lot out there. There's why is there like 2 corn snake books and then like 30 billion terabytes of information out there for us to share, right? It's let's change that. Let's and that's changed through the social media and imaging systems and YouTube videos But at the same time, it's a lot easier that way to get false information because it's not being peer reviewed or it's not a book that people are telling you not to read. It's just free information that anybody puts out there. So that's kind of the new generation's problem.
I think that's so interesting as far as what could we do, because obviously people like us, we would read probably a publication on our favorite species. Not everyone is going to, and even probably a dwindling amount of people are going to read a book. I think most people's perspective is these lazy fucks won't read a book. But really what our perspective should be is how can we make content that educates these individuals instead of worrying about, them reading a book from 1984.
Yeah.
Good year. But
it's a great year.
Like maybe it's the individuals that think that books are where it's at that should be making the YouTube videos. Cause the people reading or making the YouTube videos may not be reading the books, and the information is just not equal between the platforms. So, I mean, we need to take it in our own hands, maybe, to create more content, more things that are reaching, in ways that not only we may think reading books is right, but that doesn't make it right or convenient, or it doesn't help the adults either.
No. Yeah, that's a tough one, and man, that's a great point to be talking about as far as what can we do to promote that that sensibility in the hobby, and also it's like 20 years ago when somebody told you how they did something, they told you how to do something, right? They didn't tell you how they did it; they told you the right way to do it.
Right.
Now that mindset has changed. And that's one of the things I love about the hobby is I don't tell you the only way to do it. I'm telling you how I have had success or how I have had failures. But I think that derives from us being a lot more comfortable with our failures now than we ever were 10, 20, or humanity 30, 40, 50 years ago. I think that's just as human nature evolves, our way to explain and divulge information to others is changing and adapting. It's evolving, right? It's literally evolving, and that's a pretty special thing. Now that goes beyond just this hobby. That goes through mental health, especially men's mental health, and that's not something we need to talk about or get into. But that is something that has been egregiously ignored. Suck it up, be a man, right? And that turns out that's not necessarily the answer, but that's evolving. How men treat women and how women respond to the way men treat them. This is another thing that it's evolving. Humanity is evolving. The way we keep these animals is evolving. It doesn't mean to not look back at the past and see how things have been done, but that also means let's see how many different ways we can do this. And then when I tell you how I did it, it's because this is how I found success or I found failure, not this is the textbook way to do it. But we do need to find that calculation in there that gets us to the end product. Okay, so we need this much ventilation, this much heat, this much humidity in different spots, this much of a feeding pattern or this much routine. And now we have it. Now let's start expanding on that. Let's try different beddings. Let's try a bioactive enclosure. Let's try overhead heat. Let's try belly heat. Let's try a display enclosure. Let's try something where they can't see you at all. You can make a PVC enclosure where the animal can't see you. There's nothing wrong with that if you want to give them vertical space. I keep some of my geckos in tubs that are completely opaque, but it's still a vertical enclosure, right? This same thing can be done. It doesn't have to be. You can take Plasti Dip, which is a great product if anybody's looking at doing this, and paint an aquarium with this black plastic dip on the outside. Don't do it on the inside. And you can have a 10-gallon aquarium with a screen lid that provides great ventilation for an animal that doesn't necessarily want to be seen all the time, but still have the capabilities of actual size and a glass enclosure if that's the way that you want to deal with what you're doing. Maybe something that needs more humidity, less humidity. There's so many different variables, but we can keep evolving these things.
Yeah, and I think what's probably the main thing that works throughout that whole thing is being open to changing, being open to other people's ideas, being open that you're not always right.
It's really
which is like really, really changing as far as I feel like, at least when it came to marketing and stuff, especially for snake keepers and breeders, it was you wrote the book, you said what's right and wrong. If anyone tests me, I'm going to prove them right or wrong and, shoot them down. I think now it's much more of a, do what works for you. Here's what works for me type of situation.
And I think as we move forward in this, we can start singling out the parameters that make each of these things work. This is what this was. This is what this was. This is what this was. Reach these three and you'll have success. Not necessarily concerning about other things. I'm pretty sure my corn snakes would do great in my bioactive setups that I've used. I'm pretty sure my corn snakes do great on paper towels or puppy pads. I'm pretty sure my corn snakes would do great without heat. Probably, I don't know. They probably do great without anything.
You may have done it before, yeah, for sure.
I know people that have bred lychees in tubs from Walmart with holes poked in them with paper towels and PVC tubes that have been, holes cut in them so they can go in and out of the PVC tubes like cork bark with a water bowl, and then they bred $10,000 lychees. This is a possible thing to do. The parameters were met. I guarantee you their humidity levels, guarantee you their feeding regimens and their feeding items, what diets they're giving them, and I guarantee you their temperature. All three of those parameters were met. How they accommodated everything else, whether good or bad for the animal, still worked, right? Success was driven. So let's start honing in and perfecting that. So yeah, there's so many little things. I don't know. I'll start ranting on it, but yeah.
I think JD had a good point. He said books are typically peer reviewed. So like, as far as you at least have an editor, you have someone who's reading it, you probably send it to friends, you send it to a professor, you send it to all these different people who really check it out. And unfortunately, the nature of current media is that you need to put it out every week. You need to have a new video every week, or else the algorithm doesn't give a fuck about you. So you try to keep up with this, and therefore your research probably goes down and no one reviews it and stuff like that. And I mean, that's not saying that there's not people putting out there's plenty of people putting out great information, but there's room for error, I think, more so than a book in which someone's going to put out, a book a year, if you're very prolific, but you're probably going to put out like 3 books in a lifetime, realistically.
Yeah. If somebody was writing a reptile book that was peer reviewed, that was based on actual research, that was derivative of experience every year, that would be insane, right? And then that's I like a fiction author talking about ghosts and vampires gets a book out a year. That is still an absolute achievement. Coming from somebody who literally cannot write. Like, this is something that is so far beyond the conceptualization of something that I could ever do. Right? Like, it takes a lot to do that. Now do it on something that is not only peer reviewed in the sense of editing, but is now peer reviewed in the sense of actual scientific data, right? Like, this doesn't get to go out unless it's probably right. You know what I mean? It's amazing.
Or at least, the scientific community accepted.
Yeah.
Willing to change shit later, I'm sure.
I don't actually know how taxonomy changes in snakes, but I'm ready to meet the guy that fucked up rat snakes. I'm ready. Tell him to call me up. We'll have a rage in the cage match. Like, we're ready to go down here in South Texas. I mean, how'd you do that? Like, we don't have to talk about it, Joe, because this is we're not going to cuss a whole bunch, and we don't need to get.
We're pretty PC.
Oh man, yeah. There's some taxonomy changes that
and I think all colubrid guys would agree with that. And I'm not sure if it's like this is how we always did it type of attitude, or it's like the don't change what I already know. Like, I finally figured out that there's rosy rat snakes and there's corn snakes, and those are 2 different things. I think it's a little bit of everything. And it's like, it's also, you're used to in the hobby, we bred the emerald to the corn snake, and they're subspecies, not a big deal. Now they're species, oopsies. There's a whole bunch of factors to it, and then there's also things that don't seemingly make sense. It doesn't seemingly make sense that a black rat snake is an eastern rat snake, and an Everglades rat snake, which is red instead of black, is also an eastern rat snake.
Kind of different.
Yellow rat snake that's in the middle there somewhere is also an eastern rat snake, but it's yellow. Phenotypically, you couldn't be more different in those animals.
Or remember all of your other Gulf hammock rats that fall into that area. All of the so Obsoletus williamsi, I mean, doesn't even look like a Everglades rat snake, not even phenotypically similar. I mean, obviously, hatchlings, all obviously this kind of looks similar, but I do believe that that is a trait they have evolved to have for camouflage. There's a reason for that. It's where they're living, what they're doing. They're getting more up in trees and stuff like that. So you have your like Gulf hammock rats that look nothing, absolutely nothing like an Everglades rat. I don't even think they integrate with Everglades rats, and they're now the exact same species as an Everglades rat. Which, depending on where you go for your gray rats rats can either be an Allegahensis or they can fall into the other. Whatever new species they have for the middle rats. We'll call them, and then
Midland rats.
They're literally, you're right, Midland rats. There literally is an entire section of the range map that is cut out of we don't know. Well, you used to know. Why would you do this, right? Like that is one of the changes, and I don't pay a lot of attention to big changes in herpetoculture, but like actual herpetology, because maybe I'm just not that privy to it. I'm not that, it's not clicked on my radar. But going back and realizing what they did when they split all this stuff up. So that's where, and this is where my like pushing my glasses up my nose and I go, well, actually, this is why we need to try to, as well as making these crazy morphs and stuff. Now let's start talking about maintaining locality specific collections, especially phenotypically similar locality specific collections.
Because taxonomy is going to change, right?
Taxonomy is going to change. Locality will never change. Me having two, I say Nueces County, but I have some, I have my Rosalie are from Hendry County, and my yellow rats are Seminole County, and my White Oaks gray rats are from Santa Rosa County. And, I have a whole bunch of little locality projects for corn snakes. We know where these animals came from. I enjoy nerding out on that aspect just as much as I do the morph aspect, the 5-gene animal, that's, that my daughter named Snow Cone or whatever, like that animal is just as important in my curated collection as the specific wild caught or F1 animal. Both of these animals are trying to do something different in the hobby. Luckily, get to be maintained at the same time in the same room, and they're you don't have to. You get too many locality guys, too many morph guys that get in battles and arguments about this stuff. Right? We don't need to have that. We can work together.
Yeah.
Just regional. Yeah. Regional variations. Yeah. It's they're we don't have to go off of scientific names. We can go based off of regional phenotypes. And even within that, or there, maybe you'll have mixed phenotypes within a region. It's man, what a neat hobby, right?
Yeah, I think it's important to realize that like these animals occur in the wild. What we call them in captivity, what we breed together is completely different, and it's in our own fun. So like, don't get your panties too much in a bunch about it. But like, yeah, if you feel strongly that a rosy rat snake, in the Florida Keys is a different species than a corn snake, then please keep a collection of rosy rats and breed them together and make sure that exists, because I want that to exist, because why the fuck not?
Sell me some. I'll take them. Like, I'd love to have some of it, right? Like, please do. But also don't poo-poo me when my, magical unicorn horn choco latte, purple snake comes out and I'm like, look at this one. We can even jump to the idea of hybrids. There's a lot of people out there that really get down negatively on hybrids. I don't think there's really a problem with hybrids, with the exception of situational integrity. If you're generating a hybrid to make the world's first albino in a gray rat, or not a gray rat, gray banded king snake, which is how the albino gray banded king snakes came up. Albino therite. So any Lampropeldus therite that's albino. I do not care what percentage of therite it is. It is not pure therite.
That's cheating. Yeah, you're just cheating.
Yeah, you're cheating. The albino, I believe, came from, and I am not the Mexicana specialist, but I believe that came from Lampropeltis rufeni, That was the first albinos, and then that got bred back into Theori, because a lot of the Mexicana, if you look at kind of that range, they're very similar to the rat snakes. You have your Alterna, Theori leonis, Greeri, Ruthveni, Webi, and I'm probably missing one. Whoever nerd just yelled at their computer, calm down. But yeah, there's all of this going on, and taking something out of that and plugging it into something else and calling it something that it's not. If you take your albino black rat snake, which there's two different variations of albino black rat, they're gorgeous, and you take that and you plug that into a Texas rat snake, because technically they were only subspecies of each other, let it be known, right? At that point, Pantherophis obsoletus, Linhemeri, and Pantherophis obsoletus. Oh my God, I forgot what black rats were. Not Spilotes. That's weird. Anyways, whatever.
Linhemeri or whatever the fuck.
Yeah. And then you breed those together. Well, now that's Pantherophis obsoletus, right? And then now we're being too picky on taxonomy, which is what we were just saying we're trying to get away from, because we're using regional variations. So does that mean that every morph, in order to be considered a full-blooded morph, needs to be a locality-specific morph? But then when do we start get playing like mad scientists? And then the corn snakes, if they range from one, we could go on. There's so many variations. You cannot be picky about one thing and then okay with another thing. It's not. That's what this hobby needs to get away from, is being okay with one thing and then not okay with another thing, right? Like we need to just, hell yeah, man. You made a king snake ball python mix. I'm sure that works. And great, awesome. Sell it as that, produce it as that. Let's find out more about it. Let's see how it works, but let's keep it in the hobby as that. Billy Hunt, a good buddy of ours, produces the Jag Pondros. Badass. These are amazing. These are beautiful. And it's like, wow, that's great for the hobby, because there's people out there that want that. You've curated a snake for somebody. It's like painting a classic Porsche that should have never been repainted, painting it, lime green and selling it. Yeah. The guy that bought it could have never been happier about a lime, 1982 Porsche 911 that's not originally goblin green and whatever. And so that person is so happy to have that in their collection. And it obviously, it went somewhere, did something. You generated something. Let's be honest about it. Let's not try to hide it. Let's not try to call it something it's not. And then, let's push that out there. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think what's great about the hobby is that regardless of what we do and what we talk about, is that there's always those two guys. There's the guy who doesn't cross anything. There's the guy who crosses everything. If you want to buy from the guy who crosses everything, that's fucking awesome. If you want to buy from the guy who keeps everything pure, that's awesome. Just present them in the way that, that's truthful. And there you go. Exactly. We have two different options. You can, oh man, does a Bredli IJ coastal albino look amazing? But if you're a guy who doesn't cross that line, all right, man, there's pures of all that stuff. And hopefully that we're able to maintain those two things. Like hopefully we're able to maintain the purity. Hopefully we're able to have those guys who are going to push the limits and do crazy things.
Yeah, it's like I want to be somewhere in the middle. I don't really want to generate hybrids, but I definitely want to have like locality specific projects. But at the same time, I want to see where we can go, kind of mixing the two. We've talked about this. The local rat snake is what used to be called a thorn scrub rat snake. This was
I love to shit on you about these, by the way.
So the thorn scrub rat snake, just a little heads up. I should get one out because they're huge.
Yeah, bro. I have an Emery rat snake. I know what they look like.
No, I mean, they look the same. They're just twice the size. It's just a bigger animal.
No, I would love to see one actually, because I don't think I've actually seen. Yeah, go for it. So what Kris is talking about is that Emery, first of all, was a subspecies of corn snake. It was Pantherophis guttatus emery, and then it was Pantherophis emery. But there was also Pantherophis. Was it melon? What is was it full species?
No, it was a subspecies. So emery was in 3 different subspecies, and that was Meal morum. So you've got Meal morum emery, which is the Great Plains rat snake. I'm sorry, You've got meal morum, which is a thorn scrub. This is a Nueces County thorn scrub. He's big. It's a big snake, right? Like,
can I go get my emery while I pee?
Yeah,
for funsies.
And I'll tell everybody the taxonomy bullshit we're dealing with right now. So yeah. So you have meal morum, which is the thorn scrub rat snake, and these are found closer to the coast. And they're big, they're chunky. Look at the girth on these animals. These are not like corn snakes. They're not thin little emery. They may have the patterning and the colors, but these are big snakes. And ignore my hand. I have like ogre hands that just look weird. But these are big snakes. So the thorn scrub, then as you move up into Texas and further north, becomes a Great Plains rat snake. And even if you're in West Texas, you have the Great Plains rat snake, which is Pantherophis emery. Then if you move more north, there's the Pantherophis intermontana, which is the Colorado rat snake, I think it was called, and it may have been called the Great Plains Colorado rat snake. I am not entirely sure on their common name, but that was the intermontana subspecies or full species of these. So yeah, there's a lot of arguing going on about where these animals actually were and where they started with. This is a great example of a normal, just beautiful thorn scrub, right? Big, chunky, curvy, still has your kind of loaf of bread look, but they're just a larger bodied snake, right? Like this is not a chunky fat snake. Yeah, what is that? Like a 3-year-old snake? This
is like an elderly snake.
Oh yeah, see,
he was actually this is a male emery or Pantherophis emery rat snake, and this was actually wild collected by Tony of Selective Scales. And when I say wild collected, I'm not sure if this animal was found in Tony's driveway or it was found on a construction site that he was on. I don't remember the story. I think I got it mixed up between one of Austin Warwick's stories. So I think this was found on Tony's driveway in DFW, Dallas-Fort Worth area. Keller,
absolutely,
yeah, he's actually a pretty big male, and he's kind of an old guy.
Yeah, and this is a big. I'm 6 foot tall, and this thing's probably every bit of close to 5 foot. I bet 5 foot, if not more. And
we're probably looking at 4 feet on this animal right here.
You're looking kind of for that bread loaf look. This guy's got muscle structure, and they're just thick. The thing about the rat snakes down here is they're chunky, man. And it's good. It's a good structured snake. You know what I mean? Like, you could tell when a snake is obese, and you want to have that kind of bread loaf look to him. And this guy's nice color, man. One thing that nobody is really seeing is the iridophores these animals have. They have really, they're actually really colorful, and you get these really cool. I got a nice light on. I'm trying to see if you see that. Yeah, they have these really cool iridophores.
You can see even this animal has pinks and oranges. The belly right there.
Yeah,
and I've always appreciated it, and it's a wild caught animal, man.
Yeah. So this is an F1. But here, let me show you a wild caught, and then let me show you an F3 line bred stripe.
Yeah, so this is an animal that I've had for a few years from Tony, and just super calm, super cool. This is actually, I keep him in a bioactive cage because he's one of my pets. I don't breed him to anything, but just a really cool snake. Even if you were looking for a pet, man, all the emerys I've hung out with, as far as I've held and stuff like that. And there's albinos out there too, and there's snows. I think those are hybrids of snows, but they're all
the snows are not hybrids.
Oh, there's pure Anery emery.
Yeah, there's pure Anery emery. The thought was that they were the same Anerys they found in Smolinskii, but they found a few different Anery examples. So there's albino emery. There's Anery emery, there's snows, which is a combination of the two. There's chocolate emery, and there's albino chocolate emery. So this is Jigsaw. who is a really crazy pattern. I found this guy while group chatting with our group. We were FaceTiming, and I was driving around completely legally and literally found a snake in the road in the middle of the day. He's crazy looking. He doesn't look like his pattern is not.
So I think what's important to mention is the fact that emerii typically have this, like if you've seen a corn snake before, this is the typical pattern. And if you look at that animal, it has almost the vertebrae pattern of, say, a rat snake. A lot of the rat snakes have those pointed patterns, at least on the corners there. And they almost look like back vertebrae right there. So that's super interesting, especially because it looks, exactly like an emerii. It has some of the chocolatiness in the pattern and stuff like that, but it has a little bit of that vertebrae pattern.
So the first snake that I had out, the big guy, that is a Nueces County thorn scrub, right? Like that is what they normally look like. This guy was found in a specific place in Nueces County where I was driving that they're known to have that kind of jawbone pattern. Huh. So a few guys that have been really big into this took those jawbone pattern guys and kept breeding them. So let's get one step further.
How deep are we getting as far as like rat snake nerdiness? There's someone out there that's enjoying this. It's very few people, and I love it. I love it how specific this is getting.
That's one step further. Actually,
what the fuck is going on there?
So yeah, I have a huge collection of striped, pure Nueces County emerii.
I'm trying to put you full screen here. There you go.
So these were produced by a gentleman named Toby Brock and John Lassiter here in Corpus Christi, Texas. And these are F3 Nueces County snakes.
And for those who are on download right now, we're looking at something that has pretty much a straight bare pattern that almost forms a stripe down the middle of the spine of a snake that usually has the pattern equivalent to like a corn snake. That's so wild.
Yeah, so this is an F3 Mealmorum, true wild-caught, line-bred thorn scrub. This now, in current taxonomy, is an emerii, which is fine, which, it is what it is. So now we take this and let's start looking at what we can do with it.
And by the way, whenever Kris tries to message me and say, this is my thorn scrub, I make fun of him and tell him nice emerii. Because, that's what friends do. You just got to kind of joke about this stuff. I love the fact that there's people that are separating the two because I'm not, but I like to mess with Kris that it's an emerii.
This is a pure
sick, dude,
from North Texas lineage that's just albino. But if that's a selectively bred trait, and we can prove it out that that's a selectively bred trait, so my F1s from this animal to that animal will start sowing. Oh, it bites. It scares the hell out of me.
Dear evil.
What you call it? Emerii almost never bite, and I'm sure that.
I was about to say, didn't we have that discussion like 5 minutes ago?
Constant than anything else. They're super chill, and it didn't even bite me in the head, but it just scared the shit out of me. So this snake is a pure emerii albino, and so if I took this snake, which just happens to be female, and breed it back to that male that I was just holding, what is our F1s going to look like? Right? They're going to have some kind of a oddly structured pattern, hopefully similar to the wild-caught animal that I showed you, and be hets for albino. Then let's start breeding that project back together, and now we have different localities, and we're not striping out that gene pool, and then maybe we get an albino like that, and then I can further that. I have snows in my collection, I have chocolates in my collection, I have albino chocolates in my collection, and I have some het aneries in my collection. I sadly at this time don't have any true aneries. There's not a whole lot of people that work with them. They kind of look like normal emerii. But yeah, so there's projects like that. So now we can take a true locality specific, selectively bred animal, which I have a few. So like I'll keep working with that line because there's not a lot of people working with it, and I can hone in on that line, maybe even make it better. But now let's start throwing it to everything else that's in the hobby, right?
Right. Yeah, and I think that I mean, man, I want a snow emerald. These are things that, and if people don't have reference for like the cost and value of these things, we're talking about like $75 snakes. And we are so excited about these fucking things. And like
I
normal emerald are like $15.
Yeah,
but I mean,
I think the albinos are max. Now, here's the thing: find true captive bred pure emeralds, right? I think they're maybe $100. Snows are maybe 150 now, right? Like a great person to reach out to if you're looking for animals like this is Travis Weisler, I believe is the gentleman's name. I've gotten a few of my morph animals from him. Whistler, there you go. Let me show you a chocolate, because that's where things get weird.
Yeah, so and chocolate's indicative for that, obviously, chocolate coloration. And if you look at this wild type emery, I mean, he's kind of a chocolate, he's kind of a brown coloration. So chocolate's just a little bit more extreme of this. So I don't know how people originally like picked chocolates away from normals. And I was saying, like, the normal emery as adults are rather chocolate coloration.
They're amazing.
So like, how do you even pick out, say, a chocolate from a normal?
So the pattern is different.
Dude, it's dark, actually.
They have red heads, which you can kind of see. And then they have iridophores on their body that is like to a magnitude of like a children's python or something. When you see a spotted children's python and it kind of looks silly in pictures, these kind of have that same crazy sheen to them, and it's impossible to get in a picture or something. So yeah, the chocolate emery, it does deepen its colors more as a hatchling than anything else, but it's the pattern, right? It gets these, instead of having the bands or normal what we're used to with like that, it has a ton of little chunks, just kind of spots all over it. It's almost like a spotted morph, kind of like a zipper.
It almost looks like an Antaresia.
Yeah, it really does. And then so this is a recessive trait, but it almost has that down the spine quality of it. So what happens when you take a recessive trait like this, generate heads, and then produce something that was line bred to be striped? And we have to be very honest about the reverse stripe gene in the emery. It is not a codom trait, though it will generate abnormalities in the first generation. It's a polygenic trait, right? Like this is something that is in the genetics of the animal that is passed on. We may never, this is just totally possible in the genetics of these animals, we may never be able to generate another line of snakes with stripes like that by taking hets from emery, right? That may just be that lineage of animals. Now there are F3s, and I actually have an F4 animal as well. So no.
Are there normal patterned animals coming out of those striped pairings?
No. So the striped pairings either produce highly aberrant animals or striped animals. So yeah, it's pretty crazy. Let me grab one more.
You know what's funny, and I was thinking of it just as Kris was talking. It's like, when was the last time that I held this animal? It's probably been quite a long time, especially because the enclosure that it's in a bioactive enclosure that I don't need to clean that often. And like, damn, am I happy that I randomly picked up this animal today. It just makes me so happy to like reconnect with an animal that when you have a larger collection, you don't hold everything. But it's like, just to hold an animal for this long just makes you realize why the hell you keep these animals.
So here's your snow emery, which if you look at the leftover coloration after everything gets blown out compared to this animal and the animal in your hands, you see that base color is still there. And that's kind of the thing about emery is they have that golden sheen in there. And a lot of those iridophores, God, I hope that's the right word because I've been using it this whole podcast. Iridophores, yeah. That's how I say it. A lot of that is lost in the snow, not necessarily in the albino or the chocolate or anything, but you lose a lot of that in the snow, and that may be just a byproduct of the anery that's in there, getting rid of some of the red. Yeah, it's kind of neat what the animals do as you start mixing all the things. So where can we go taking that big wild caught or the big F1 male that we have over here, or this crazy wild caught male that we got while live streaming with our friends? And it's got this crazy pattern on it, but that pattern almost looks like these F3 stripe guys. And I caught that guy on like on Agnes Street, bro. Like, right. Like we know where he's from. So that's kind of a neat little thing we get to do with this hobby. It's how many people will care about this stuff? I don't know. Maybe everybody will. Maybe Emery are the next.
You, me, and Mike. That's what we're working with right now. You, me, and Mike. That's what we got.
The variation. Somebody did this with black rat snakes in the 80s, and everybody forgot about it because there are some amazing things going on with black rat snakes. The cool thing about these guys is they're a little bit more relaxed, being that they're not obsoletus. So any of the Pantherophis obsoletus stuff usually has a little bit higher maintenance attitude. You will have some nice examples, but you will also have your FM 666 Texas rat snakes that are part of that group. Coming from your Emery, this was Pantherophis guttatus Emery. It was guttatus slowinskii. They've been subsected into so many different things. But your Emery family, your Milmorum family, is all part of the corn snake realm of rat snakes. And that's why I'm going to say this live for the first time, believe that Pantherophis is where you find your Emery and your corn snakes, and Elafe, what this all used to be Elafe, is where you find your obsoletus, and they're actually different.
And you can tell that these are different lineage of animals, meaning like just behavior, man, is so different. And then head shape, body type, all of that. Like an Emery is a corn, it's a corn snake. And you can see, if you've seen like the taxonomy, there's these like tree diagrams in which there's a rat snake group, and it goes western, eastern, midland, at least right now. And then there's a corn snake group that goes Emery, corn snake, and then it kind of breaks off into Slowinskii and stuff as well.
In West Texas, you have Baird's rat snake, which used to be part of the obsoletus family as well. As you go through the cusp of West Texas to North Texas, integrate with Texas rat snakes. In this entire range, you have Emery, right? They don't integrate. Neither one of them integrates with Emery. So what's going on?
You would think, you're sharing the same habitat. Yeah. You're sharing a lot of,
and one of the reasons they removed Bogertrophis from this group was because they're totally different, right? But I'd go as far as saying that your Emery and your Bairdi, and then up into your Linthemery and your Milmorum. Now maybe we can say that Milmorum being the thorn scrub and Emery being the Great Plains rat snake, maybe that was a little bit egregious. Maybe that split, and that split was mostly based on size. They're much bigger. They're just massive animals. But again,
so are differences as far as northern porn snakes.
Porn snake.
Yeah.
Check out those OnlyFans at portcityporn.com / feet pics with corn snakes. Also, go ahead, cornhub.com. Check that out, kids.
Did you were you around long enough to where in April Fools I said that I was rebranding into Cornhub?
I've been listening to you for a long time. I think I do remember that. That's a good call, though, right?
Like, thing that no one cared about is that I turned my whole website and like my Facebook and Instagram into Cornhub.
I've only had Facebook and Instagram for like a couple years, so I'm new on the social media thing. But been listening to your podcast for a long time, so that might have been where I missed out.
I hope someone appreciates the joke out there because I worked really hard and I thought it was funny. But anyway, the Northern Burlington pine snakes are going to be very different. And there's Northern pine snakes in Burlington, New Jersey that are 8 feet long. And then there's Northern pine snakes that are in Georgia, that are 5 feet long. And that's just kind of, maybe it's habitat and ecosystem that have stressed these animals in different ways in which they get different sizes. So what's to say, I guess genetic testing would be to say, I don't know. I am not a geneticist. I'm an idiot. And, there's probably, I try to lean on these guys who know what the fuck they're talking about. And I just kind of go with it and try not to complain about it, even though it makes zero sense to me. You know, a lot of it.
It's tough, though. It's tough. There's so much into that. Scott Eiper, who was on Snakes and Stogies 2 episodes ago, talked about mitochondrial DNA is what geneticists are using for taxonomy, and it's only taking I could be remiss when I say this, taking DNA from the female, and that there's a lot left to still be interpreted from all this. So I don't know. Do we need to break them up more? Do we need to lump them together more? Maybe that doesn't really matter, and maybe we just need to get past that. That's that human nature to name things, right? Like,
it's us trying to put things in boxes.
It's we can definitely say we can say that the thorn scrubs and the emerii and the inner Montana, which is the smallest species that's up there in Colorado, which is half the size of the one you're holding.
And guess what? Like, I want that, and I see it as different, but I see it as the same.
And if you had a pair of like a specific county or something, you'd want a locality specific pair. But how cool would it be to make little tiny miniature ones of these guys? But at the same time, how cool is it to make 6-foot versions of these guys that are just chill? That's probably one of the best things about the and some of the Selinsky eye that I have. A lot of the corn snake-esque animals are super chill. The ones that are the least chill are like the corn snake babies.
Right.
Kind of funny. Like adult corn snakes, I have one adult corn snake that's just, I don't know what her deal is. Other than that, most of my adult corn snakes are just the most chill animals in the world. I trust anybody with them. The babies are just kind of crazy. I don't know why. But these guys are, for the most part, just kind of super chill. I hope that as I work in this hobby, towards some of these projects, which are like 6 to 9 year, probably going to be closer to 9 to 12 year projects, to be able to actually generate snows and albinos with that same reverse stripe. If the genetics play out correctly, we are playing the lottery here. You know what I mean? Like we're trying to get a lot of things to align and holding back a lot of animals. If all of that works out great, I hope that we have these just super relaxed, chill animals that feed great right off the hit. Dude, these things are just like murderous pinky takers, frozen thawed, no questions asked. Way better than corn snake. And most corn snakes are pretty easy. Like 80-90% of corn snakes eat right off the rip. These are probably around that same amount. So this is just a great animal that can get in the hobby, and I hope I can promote that along with a lot of things. Also, neat comparison. This is about a yearling emerii, and then you were just talking about New Jersey Giants there a second ago.
Oh, damn. So New Jersey Giant is an older line of, I believe they originated in Burlington, New Jersey. I believe that they're in that area. If not, they're in the Pine Barrens in New Jersey somewhere. And it was an old school line in which you're talking about huge northern pine snakes. And that is a big black and white. And they're also known for the white background coloration, in which northern pines typically aren't that white and black. But that is a fucking beautiful pine snake.
So that's a yearling New Jersey Giant Tom Davis line.
No, it's a yearling.
That's a yearling.
That's an adult Ruthvenii.
Right? No, it's big. Hey, dude, I don't know. I'm a little nervous. If you wanted to find,
dude, I need 2 of those immediately.
Yeah, I got a couple of them. Let's see here. Let's not call it completely a yearling. This will be a year and a half, year and 3-month-old animal.
That's good enough. Yeah, for sure.
She's rad. Like
it's clean too.
They're all tail too. It's really neat. They're really, really neat. Who
produced that?
It's Tom Davis. He's kind of like an OG guy. I can't tell you anything about him. I don't know him personally, but he posts occasionally on kinksnake.com. And if you get on his waiting list or something, you might get a snake. He only deals through email, and good luck.
That's the best. Colubrid guys are the best.
It took me. So I always wanted northern pines, and I was hopefully getting something from Jay Jacoby. I did get some animals from Jay this year, and could not talk about somebody more amazing that produces pine snakes. I finally got my leucistics this year after a while of waiting to be able to get them. So I was hoping to get some northerns from Jay. The guy that originated the Jersey Giant, which is 3 different localities from New Jersey, happened to post New Jersey Giant northern pines for sale. And I bought a pair from 2 different clutches. I got this female from one clutch, and then my male is more of a high black animal. So see, she's got a lot more diffused look to her, especially on her sides, blown out,
and clean belly.
Yeah, it's a cool animal. It's a big snake for being
it's a year and a half, man.
That's a 2019, right? Like northern pine.
We looking at 3 feet? How maybe 3 or 4 feet on that?
Oh no, I'm 6 foot, so she's at least she's over 5 foot. She's over 5 foot for sure. Yeah,
that's insane.
So for all the fans out there, my hands are like all the inches. They're 10 inches, right? So if I took my pinky and I put it here and I put it over there, it's just about 10 inches, right? Right. Like, about 10 inches on my hand. If I do that here, it's there, and then I've got all this rest of the snake.
That's science.
Yeah, that right there is how you do the math. Yeah, about a probably around a 5 foot. Good size on her. Yeah. Oh, what a species to work with. These things are literally this tame hatchlings, right? Like this is how they come out. They're just chilling. They just want to kind of wander around. They eat frozen cotton right off the rip. Yeah. Hold on.
Right. Is it? I don't know if it's everyone else, but all these snakes just kind of hit my soft spot to where like I need to buy all of these, especially something like that. Like I've been thinking about those northerns for a while. I'm actually going to go over to Jay's in a little bit, probably in a couple weeks, and I want everyone, like all these snakes kind of just hit that soft spot for me, like that colubrid soft spot, whether it be the northerns, whether it be Bajas, whether it be, Emery, all this stuff is just like black pines.
Yeah, that's all a lot less diffusion. See, he has more pattern on the sides, and then he has a lot more, he's coming into more black on the head and neck pattern. It's kind of cool. Kind of a little bit messier, but like it's neat because they're all generated from the same 3 localities, but there's multiple clutches within those. So yeah, he's cool. They're and honestly, I would say that if anybody's watching this video, they're a little thin right now. It's a little cooler. I'm not feeding them as much, so don't freak out. Like I don't starve them.
Yeah, they're also like 4 feet and like a year old. So
there's also a year-old animal that like starts out eating like rat pups, which they're not Rutheni big though. They're not nearly that big when they're born.
Which isn't that weird? Because Rutheni they're the smallest of the species, but they start out the biggest.
Yeah. Were Rutheni ever a subspecies? Do you know?
I would imagine so, right? You would think that probably most of the pine snakes were lumped together at some point. I don't want to assume, but that would make sense. It wouldn't be
well, because the southerns, northerns, and blacks are all subspecies of each other, right? They're all they're all kind of closely related. Did we talk about these guys last time? Oh man, we're just getting everything out. See, this is a 3-year-old. Yeah, we talked about these guys, the North Mexican pines.
So are those I always get confused about like Jani, or whatever the hell,
so these are
Alice and all of those.
So this is Pituophis depi-jani.
There you go.
This is the North Mexican pine snake, and then Pituophis depi is the South Mexican pine snake. And I think there's also a couple other names for the animal.
Then vertebralis would be the Cape gopher.
Yeah, so vertebralis used to be Pituophis bimaris, and Pituophis bimaris vertebralis, which was so stupid. the Baja gopher snake and the Cape Baja gopher snake.
Ah.
Those are considered Pityophis vertebralis and Pityophis bimaris.
Now you better not get it twisted, people. I mean, geez.
Bimaris are tough to find. Vertebralis, a couple people are working with them. Noah's working with them. Tom Davis happens to be working with them. So anyways, yeah. So the Depijani, this is a 3-year-old male. And so
who produced that guy?
Yeah, that's a great question. And 3 years ago, I should have wrote that down. I don't remember who produced my male or my female. And these were like impulse buys at a show, and I wish I knew because his orange head just blows his pattern out, and it's like, why did I not? You know what I mean? The female's got a little bit more purples in her and stuff. Yeah, these are cool. Anybody that wants to get into Pityophis, bull snakes are like badass. Like bull snakes are awesome. But there's a lot of kind of smaller animals. This animal could probably breed next year. I'm giving him all my pine snakes are getting 4 years, right? Like,
yeah. You're getting there.
Yeah. Well, we'll be looking at these in 2022, which is fine. I'm not in a big rush, and I would hate for anything to happen to them. And yeah, Nathan, come on, right? Like, get out. That's a real life animal that you get to experience. So yeah.
Is there anything more tricky as far as why are the rare pine snakes the rare ones? Is it just because they're a little bit off the map as far as locality goes?
I genuinely think it's because they're okay. So the North Mexican pines, they're probably the easiest ones to breed because I've heard you don't even cool them. I'll probably cool mine just because it's like textbook practice in my collection. But they're 4 or 5 years to be able to breed, right? So that's that little thing that
ain't nobody got time for that.
You mean I can't get it to size in a year and breed it? It's not going to be 1,600 grams. What are you talking about? It's like, I truly believe that you could get a male corn snake to size and breed it in a year, and you could breed a female in 2 years. It's totally possible. Do not do it. I like the 3-year rule. People do it all the time, though, right? And so I think it's the time investment into pine snakes. Also, that they can have tough attitudes as babies, and it's probably not as easy of a sell, right? Like corn snakes are usually pretty easy, and you have a million different colors. Ball pythons, I don't even know are ball pythons like fussy. I don't know. Do they do that? I don't know much about them. I've never had one. Not that I don't think they're beautiful.
You've never had a ball at all?
Never had a ball python. Yeah.
That's amazing. You're like what it is. You're a gold star herp keeper.
I don't think I've ever had a python.
Now that's offensive. I mean, ball python, I get. No,
I've had boas, and I've paired and bred rosy boas, but I've never had
and those are like colubrid boas anyway. Those
they're North American boas. Like get out. Yeah, so it's crazy. That's a yearling. So yeah, you'd see the size of a yearling northern pine, and then the size of a 3-year-old southern a South or a North Mexican pine. I don't know. We still getting stuff out. You want to see something? You want to see like 2 more cool things? What are we still doing this, Joe? Are we still going?
We're still going. It's almost hour 3 on this, and we're still going.
Game time.
This is one of those podcasts where at the beginning I was like, hey, Kris, I'm really tired. I had a long day at work. You're going to have to get us going here.
So we'll go southern pines.
3 hours.
I don't know if I talked about these last time. So this is albino southern pine. And I have both color phases of the albino southern pines. So there's a light phase and a dark phase. And nobody really knows why. Southern pines have a lot of weird things going on with them in coloration. And they just kind of come out in different colors. I don't think anybody has really figured out. Also, when you put albino in these things, it's kind of like putting diffused into an animal, right? Like it blows everything else out. When you start doing morphs with southern pines, so this is Migutus, they start doing kind of weird stuff. So this is the albino variant. I'm not going to get out the darker colored albino because she's kind of an ass.
But I mean, it's essentially a candy corn or a candy cane corn snake.
Yeah. So this animal is older than the northern pines by about 2 months. And that's still a pretty good sized yearling snake, right? And again, we're not talking about a fat, overweight, overly fed, chunky boy. Like this is, I feed my snakes what I feel is a healthy amount, and could probably, get them much bigger faster. You'll notice Southern pines. This is something that I would say the big difference is. Southern pines are a lot less handleable. They don't really chill very much, right? They're kind of
you can see that it's like it doesn't wrap around your fingers. It's kind of like wiry, kind of weird, kind of very much like my Ruthveni are oftentimes.
I would say that the Southerns are probably a lot closer to Ruthveni, with the exception of these don't always have attitude problems. Where I've heard Ruthveni kind of always are dicks, right? Like they're
fine. I mean, I've gotten them now from different lines, and it seems like other people's are okay.
It's just yours. All right, let's go one more.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty straightforward as far as the Southern pines actually butt up against, say, Louisiana's, and then you have the black pines. And it seems as though just that southern range, they're all smaller in size, and they all seem just a little bit more cantankerous, if you will.
So you can kind of see the rate of growth in these animals. This is let me get the correct date right. This is, I believe, a 3-month-old leucistic southern pine. So they're not completely patternless, and you can sometimes see a little pattern in their tail. It's almost like the black pine snakes. Black pine snakes as babies, usually you'll see a little bit of pattern on them. But on the leucistics, it's sometimes you'll see like these little pink faint hits of like dots on their tails. But for some reason, the leucistics and the southern pines are extremely good feeders. They have blue eyes too, which is really cool. I don't know if you can see that. So these animals are extremely good feeders, and they're extremely tame. There's just something about these guys in this line. I believe Craig Trumbauer was the one that originally started breeding them, and that's going to be back in the late 80s or early 90s, and they came out of Florida. And I don't remember the exact county, but now there's only a handful of people working with them. Again, it's about a 4-year snake, and I think that's one of the reasons people don't really work with them. Yeah, that's, man, pretty cool. So
it's a pink snake. For those who don't know, like a lot of southern leucistic pines, I mean, you're looking at a pink and white snake. I mean,
it's kind of neat.
What more can you ask for, really, with blue eyes? Not bad.
Yeah, they're not inherently a beautiful animal until you start looking at them. They have the keeled scales, they have these blue eyes, they have this pink tongue, and it's like, whoa. And it's so crazy. This is a subspecies of the exact same thing as a black pine that has stark black eyes, a black tongue, black inside of its mouth, and a completely black animal. It's crazy, man. So much variation in the Pituophis genus, and so much. See, oh man, yeah, cool critters, man. I don't know. I get pumped. I can literally go on forever about these things.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's pine snakes or something. I feel like it may always be kind of that niche below your more popular things. Maybe the people who get a little bit more into it and are looking for something different. But cool animals, man.
I hope some of these kind of like outer cusp colubrids, especially North American stuff, kind of start gaining a little bit more in popularity.
And I think that's happening. I mean, I think that's been happening over the last few years. I mean, when we first started in this, I'm sure it was you're looking at mostly exotic species. But then even before that, it was all, North American colubrids, right? So
yeah,
maybe things are kind of waves and things.
Deadly Tarantula Girl, thanks for watching with us, and yeah, hopefully get to see you sometime at a show. It'd be awesome.
Yeah, and they're actually JD and Marita just moved to Odessa, so they're actually.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
I mean, that's about 100 hours away from Corpus Christi, but I mean, it's Texas.
Yeah, me and Austin were talking about on Snakes and Stogies about how he's in Texas and I'm in Texas, and I'm like, oh man, that's awesome. I was like, where are you at? And he was like, oh yeah, I'm here. And I was like, oh cool, that's like 7 hours.
Yeah, see you never, but we're here.
I think if we take, I think we talked about it. If we took like a tollway, we could do it in like 6.5 or something, 6 hours. And we figure it out.
Eat in Austin or something. There's always good places to go.
Austin's fun. Austin is and can be fun. Awesome, man. Well, that's
almost 3 hours. We did it.
I literally, I'm just like, I could just keep pulling snakes out, bro. You don't even know. This is what I do like every day. I'm one of those people, years and years and years into this, and we didn't get talk about geckos. We even start talking about eublepharid. We got to do a whole episode on eublepharid, Joe. I mean, come on. And the whole project reticulatus, how we got to go out to West Texas and catch Coleonyx reticulatus so we can start breeding those, get those out in the hobby. Start, man. It's gonna be, man. The future's bright, right? The future's bright. And I'm one of those people that just like comes in my collection, starts pulling stuff out. It's just so pumped up, right? Like when it, every day I try to go through almost every animal. Like we skip a few of them. Some of them are assholes. But I, you don't go through every baby, right? You don't go through everything. Every day, you just get pumped up about what you have. And if you're not, take a step back and don't. And this is a kind of message out to, I don't know who's still listening at 3 hours. If you're not completely stoked about it, if you're not pumped up about it, if this isn't just like your passion, isn't your drive, there's nothing wrong with that, right? Take a step back. Sell those animals. They are somebody else's passion too. And you're not. I've sold tons of beautiful, amazing animals that I've worked with, and it's not that I didn't love them. I just wanted somebody else to appreciate them as much as I had, right? So people need to keep that in mind. This hobby, you can have one snake, and you could maybe not be an expert on that animal, but you can enjoy this hobby with just one animal. But you can also enjoy this hobby with 100 animals. And when you're enjoying it with 100 animals, if you have to get rid of 30 or 40 or 50 or 60, don't be embarrassed by that. Don't let anybody take that away from you. Everybody has to manage their own lives and their own mental health first.
Yeah, and I think that
pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully in the hobby you have made good enough friends to where the animals that you really love, you can pass on to a friend and see them do it. So Mike had mentioned Black Kings, and so Mike first produced those Ethan Black King snakes, and then he sold them to me for like, a ridiculous price that doesn't make any sense. And then I sold them to Kris for the same price that doesn't make any sense. But it's just because Mike wanted to see me produce them, and then I produced them, and I raised a few clutches, and then now Kris is going to produce them. And it's cool because no matter what, we know what's going on. Yeah. Was it the best for me to keep those animals when I had so many animals and they're kind of a handful? Now, like, I'm on blood thinners and they like to bite my feet and shit and everything that moves. Not the best choice for me to have. But I mean, for Kris to have, I like watching them. I'll love watching you produce those and be like just as almost as happy as if I produced them myself. And I didn't have to go through all the shit.
And they kind of came out of quarantine into my collection around the time of Brumation, and then I had some issues. So I'm gonna give them just a year off, which I don't see that being an issue.
They're only like 12 years old. So I mean,
I know, they're just chilling for a year. If there was a snake in this entire collection whose enclosure I was not going to open up after handling other snakes, it's them.
I love that.
Those are the ones, dude. I don't know what it is. I had Eastern Kings. I raised some beautiful Eastern Kings. Ended up both being male, and I gave my male to John Lassiter. He's got one of my males, and gave the other one to a friend. Those things were insane. They still are not as crazy as animals. You told me that they will literally chase you out of their enclosure. They literally will.
When I said that they bit my toes when I was feeding them, they jumped out of their tubs and would bite my feet.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
the Linhemeri are really, really, really defensive. They're really hungry. The Eastern Black Kings, they're extremely hungry, which is so the opposite of the babies, which is so funny.
Which are completely chill.
Once I got those,
it's weird.
I had one of them was on live and one of them was on Frozen. The one that was on Frozen was always just a beast. The one that was on live, I did live for a long time, live. And then somehow you start like mimicking the movement of a pinky with the tongs, right? Like you have like the thawed out pinky and you just have it on the little thing and you're like, it's like left, 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 one up, right, right, right. Like you're putting a code into a Super Nintendo, right? And dude, she started jamming Frozen Thawed, and a good buddy of mine has that pair now because once I got the tree, I was like, I'll give these to a friend. And that's another thing. Don't be afraid to take a project and put it in somebody's hands and be like, yo, take it, do this. Show me what's up. Show me what it is. I just got grandchildren of some of my original wild caught cave geckos. How cool is that? Like I got out of cave geckos. I had F2s. I'm sorry, I had F1s that I had produced. And I sold my wild caughts. I sold my F1s. And then the guy that I sold my F1s to comes back and he's like, yo, here's an F2. Here's geckos that are grandchildren from the original wild caught that you got back in the day. And so now I have those back in my collection. And I'm just like, whoa, like how cool is that? Like it's such a big circle of love, man. That's what we need to promote, just that.
And I never completely gave up on the Eastern Black King Snakes. I have a female growing up that I feel like I'll probably buy a male from you if you produce something like
I'll
that.
send you a male. I'll just send you one. Yeah, like I'll send you all the ones that don't eat. They're yours.
That's gonna be most of the clutch. That's gonna be awkward.
Yo, we got tricks down here. It's different in Texas. Total air's different. You know what I mean? We do things just a little. We do it a little special. I am very blessed to within like 2 miles of my house is one of the leading king snake kind of experts. So he's kind of any animals I've had that didn't eat and any issues I've had and brumation issues, helping me out with the gray bandeds and just general. I especially doing like wild caught animals, how to properly. We all talk about, and I'm sorry, I'm going to go on another one. We talk about bringing wild caught animals into collections. Well, what are you doing? You're giving them panicure, you're giving them flagell, but what amounts are you giving them in? How are you administering that to them? What if you bring a wild caught animal, maybe not necessarily in your collection, you bring it in quarantine, and I would suggest 2 different kinds of quarantine. You should have, if you're bringing wild caught animals into a collection, its own spot for wild caught animals, because there's a good chance that animal may go back to the wild. And the last thing you want to do is take something from your collection and send it out to, Air Street, wherever you found that street rat snake. That's not what you want to do. I've heard Brooks.
Brooks are.
I've heard they can be kind of crazy.
They're even worse as far as when they actually get the mouse, they wrap every single inch of the mouse up. And So it's like, imagine it on your finger or something. Brooks are pretty equivalent. They're pretty crazy. Yeah.
But when you start bringing in wild caught stuff, and maybe there's a collection you want to establish something, you want to bring something in and make it happen. There's steps you want to take, and there's things you want to treat your entire collection with. But there's like, how much do you give something? And I'm not the person that's going to tell you this, because I am still new to a lot of this over the last like 2 years. Starting to deal with 3 years, actually dealing with more wild caught stuff, and probably closer to 2 years. So there's a lot out there, man. There's being in this for 20 years, breeding for 20 years, breeding day geckos when I was 14, 15 years old, and still now breeding geckos. I still learn stuff every day, every single day. It's amazing.
And guess what? Even if you learn everything about one species, which is impossible, there's 3,000 more for you to play with.
And that's just geckos, right? And now you can move on to the next thing. It's crazy.
Yeah, it never stops. Well, just like this podcast, never ends. 3 hours.
Let's do it, man.
Thank you so much for hanging out for 3 hours.
Anytime, man.
So if anyone wants to reach out to you, if anyone wants to find you on social media, where can they find you?
You can hit up my Kris Painschaub, just my name on Facebook, Badlands Herpetoculture on Facebook, or Instagram is probably the easiest way to do it, Badlands Herpetoculture. I wish I was a little bit more pragmatic about posting pictures online. I'm not the biggest fan into social media, but if you message me, I will respond. Anybody just wants to chat, talk, ask questions, do it. Anybody wants to see if I have anything available, hit me up. I'm happy to talk with you regardless.
You heard the man. Go hit him up. If you want to check me out, what I have going on, portcitypet.com, Port City Pythons podcast on YouTube, Port City Pet Instagram, all that good stuff. You know where to find me. Come on, let's do this thing. From the Ground Up podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening. Please go check out Focus Cubed Habitats. Kris, have you gotten an idea? I mean, you're there in Texas. Have you been able to gander on Ashley and Steven's enclosures?
I have. They're amazing. They're absolutely amazing. But Joe, I'm about to piss myself, so I'm gonna run off. I'll be right back.
It's more fun if you piss yourself on camera.
Stop it. Stop it.
Thank you guys so much for listening. We will catch you later. I hope you enjoyed this. I mean, it's been a while since I've had a friend on and we just rambled for 3 hours. It's excellent. I really hope you had as much fun as I did on this podcast. I still have this emery rat snake in my hand. He's been pretty chill. Thank you, Tony, for taming this guy down. And thank you guys so much for listening. We will catch you guys next week.